Good evening, ladies and gentlemen on Zoom. Welcome to the Planning Board meeting, May 7th, 2025, 7:30 p.m. via Zoom. Notice of this meeting was given to the Township Clerk and posted on the Township Bulletin Board and Township website calendar and was sent to the West Orange Chronicle and the Star Ledger. This meeting has been properly noticed to the public in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act. No new matters will start after 10:30 p.m. May I ask everybody to rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Please be seated. The next Planning Board regular meeting will be held June 4th, 2025 at 7:30 p.m. via Zoom.
No, it's on 6:30 p.m. in person. Remember, we dedicated it to.
Yes. I'm sorry, 6:30 p.m. in person. Yeah, you're right. Absolutely right. Sorry. At Town Hall.
Mhm.
Zoom will only be available to watch. There'll be no comment on Zoom on that night. Roll call, please.
Mr. Alpert,
Here.
Mr. Cardoza,
Present.
Ms. Caffer,
Here.
Mr. Klein,
Here.
Mr. Morgan,
Here.
Mr. Wilks,
Here.
Councilwoman Scarpa,
Present.
Mayor McCartney,
Present.
Mr. Guarino,
Present.
Chairman Bago.
Here. Thank you. PB 24-19, the Waymaker LLC, 40 Eagle Ridge Way, the draft resolution for adoption. I make a motion that we adopt this with conditions as stated. Ms. McGovern, would you go over the conditions?
Okay,
A number of issues that we have to address.
but I printed it out. Here we go. The applicant shall comply with all applicable township, county, state, and federal laws, ordinances, regulations, and directives, including without limitation, obtaining all applicable local, state, and federal approvals or permits without limitation of the foregoing prior to the signing of the approved site plans and prior to the commencement of any land disturbance or construction, but excluding interior renovations. This applicant shall submit to this board with a copy to the board engineer, proof that it has obtained all required governmental land use approvals for the stormwater management system and driveway landscaping, removal of the concrete pipe, replacing it with riprap, and a minimum of 2 deck dams, enlargement of the scour hole, and construction of the 2-tiered boulder wall. If another governmental entity or agency grants a waiver or variance inconsistent with the terms of this resolution of approval, or materially affects the plans and or exhibits submitted by the applicant, which has the impact of vacating this approval of the stormwater management system or the conditions attached, then the applicant shall reapply to this board respecting the same, and this board shall have the right to view that issue as it relates to this approval and these conditions and modify and amend same if appropriate. This condition shall not apply to the terms of the private settlement agreement between the applicant and objector.
Thank you. So I'd like to specifically thank Mr. Scott and Ms. Carballo for the extensive help that they did evaluating this project and bringing it to fruition. There's a motion on the floor. Do I have a second on the motion?
Second, Mr. Chairman.
Vice Chairman seconds the motion. On the motion, Yamilet.
1 second. Okay. Mr. Guarino, Mr. Alpert,
Yes.
Mr. Klein,
Yes.
Mr. Wilks,
Yes.
Mr. Cardoza,
Yes.
Councilwoman Scarpa,
Yes.
Mayor McCartney,
Yes.
Mr. Guarino,
Yes.
Chairman Bago.
Yes, the resolution is adopted. Thank you. I make a motion that we adopt the West Orange Planning Board draft minutes of January 22nd, 2025. Do I have a second?
Second, Mr. Chairman.
Vice Chairman seconds. Does anybody have any deletions, additions, or corrections of the minutes? Seeing none. Vote on the motion, please, Yamilet.
Mr. Alpert,
Yes.
Mr. Klein,
Yes.
Mr. Morgan,
Yes.
Mr. Wilks,
Yes.
Mr. Cardoza,
Yes.
Ms. Gaffer,
Yes.
Councilwoman Scarpa,
Yes.
Mayor McCartney,
Yes.
Mr. Guarino,
Yes.
Chairman Bago.
Yes, the minutes are adopted. Thank you. Ms. McGovern, would you swear in the township professionals, please?
Okay, we have Mr. Hazel from the Schwing Group as our planner. We have Mr. Philip Scott from Matrix as our consulting engineer. If you please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Thank you. We have an ordinance review sent down by the council for our deliberation. 2819-25 Stormwater 4825 revised, final, and we have Ms. Carballo has sent a memorandum, and Mr. Hazel will discuss is this consistent with the master plan? Mr. Hazel.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have reviewed the proposed ordinance, and I do find that it is in consistency with the master plan.
Thank you, sir. Okay, does anybody have any questions about the modified ordinance, the updated ordinance? Seeing none, I make a motion that we recommend to the town council to adopt 2918-25 Stormwater 4825 revised in the final version form. Do I have a second?
Yes.
Councilperson Scarpa seconds. On the motion, Yamilet.
Mr. Alper,
Yes.
Mr. Klein,
Yes.
Mr. Wilks,
Yes.
Mr. Cardoza,
Yes.
Gaffer,
Yes.
Councilwoman Scarpa,
Yes.
Mayor McCartney,
Yes.
Mr. Guarino,
Yes.
Chairman Bago.
Yes, this is adopted. Ms. McGovern, would you send up to the town council that we have evaluated the stormwater management ordinance revision, and it is consistent with it? We have found that it is consistent with the master plan.
We'll do so.
Thank you. Application PB 24-14, 172-174 Main Street LLC, Block 83, Lot 1 and 5.01, Zone B1, 172-174 Main Street in West Orange, for the applicant, Mr. Zerbal.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Tyler Zaburo. I'm a partner with Spiro Harrison and Nelson. I'm here on behalf of 172-174 Main Street LLC. It's been a little over a month since we were last here with our first hearing happening on February 5th. So I thought it might make sense for me to give a little bit of background and see where we're at this point. So on the at the first meeting, we heard from Mr. Cox. He was the representative and owner of 172-174 Main Street LLC. He had provided some testimony about his plan for the property, which is to add a third story and convert the building to a mixed use with 2 office spaces on the first floor and 7 residential units divided between the second and third floors, one of which will be income restricted. And then he offered some testimony regarding the renovations inside and out of the building. And then we heard from our architect, Jason Peist, and he kind of went into the specifics of the project, that all of the mechanical features are going to be upgraded to modern mechanical appliances, air conditioners, all of which are going to be quieter. The building's going to be completely renovated outside, so we're not going to have this dated 1979-ish building. It's going to be completely renovated to look, much more modern and consistent with what the downtown area is supposed to look like under the master plan. Mr. Peist also offered some testimony regarding the building height, which is 34.5 feet, where 35 is permitted in the zone. And he explained that, the only reason we are here before the board is because we're requesting a variance for the third story and existing non-conforming bulk variances. He also, sorry. And he did show us some elevations of what the building's expected to look like. And then we heard from Donna Bullock, our professional engineer. She explained about the sight lines, that there's clear view in each direction. And she also explained that this is an existing approved parking lot. The entrances are existing, they're approved, so nothing's going to be changing there. And then we had a number of concerns raised by the public regarding the increased traffic. So we retained Patrick Downey our traffic engineer, and he presented some calculations, which, in summary, this proposed mixed use is going to generate less trips than the existing two-story commercial office use. And then at the last meeting, we had finished up with our professional planner, John McDonough. He showed a number of photographs of the building taken by drone, the front of the building, the surrounding area. And he explained that, the surrounding areas consists of large 2.5-story structures, many of which are raised above the ground level. And we've got 3-story buildings directly across the street. And he also offered testimony that the project fully complies with the use requirements of the zone and substantially complies with the bulk requirements such as height, parking, etc. And then Mr. McDonough offered some testimony regarding the relief for the rear yard setback and coverage, both of which are pre-existing conditions that constitute a hardship under the flexible C variance and the RLO case. And then Mr. McDonough offered some testimony regarding the purposes of zoning and under the MLUL, which are advanced by this application. If I remember correctly, it was purpose A that promotes the general welfare. By advancing, the general welfare is advanced by renovating, repurposing, revitalizing a longstanding familiar building. It'll add new housing for people to live in and new businesses for people to shop at, work at, etc. That it would promote purpose G, which is a promotion of a variety of uses in appropriate locations because the site is a civic center. He testified that it's good planning to concentrate people in the downtown setting with easy access to civic and public amenities. Purpose I, the promotion of a desirable visual environment because the project delivers a fresh, new, renovated building as opposed to a dated, dilapidated building, and it complements the area, and it really does go with the building that's directly across the street, that 3-story building. And he also discussed purpose M, the promotion of efficient use of land. That's exactly what this project is doing. We're adapting an existing use. We're reusing the property, renovating and altering it, which is really the central purpose of planning. And then Mr. McDonough also testified as to, alternate uses that are permitted in this zone that would be less desirable, such as, a bar or something of that sort, which we find would be more disruptive to the area. So the applicant is really proposing something that's, much less intensive. And then in connection with the detriments, Mr. McDonough offered testimony that he didn't believe that there were any because the relief that's being sought is not causing any detriments. We're upgrading the building. It's improving the relationships on Main Street and the homes that surround it. The added story does not require a height variance. It's in line with the buildings that are surrounding it, and it's visually and functionally, there's the departure from what is contemplated permitted in this zone is not substantial. The site is, in his testimony, was that the site is sunken down in relation to the adjoining residential uses. And everything kind of slopes down in that area. And there are quite a few existing trees that go up into the area where this 3rd story would be, which is going to provide that additional natural buffer. And, in sum, the flexible C variance relief is appropriate because the benefits of this proposed project as a whole substantially outweigh the detriments. That being said, we did have some concerns from adjoining property owners and from the board questioning, the privacy on the adjoining properties and aesthetics. So we do have our experts here tonight to answer any questions you may have, specifically Mr. McDonough or Mr. Peist, in connection with the aesthetic concerns. And in terms of privacy, I spoke to my client. We're willing to agree to a condition of approval on that 3rd story where we would put in the privacy film on the windows, so that'll further mitigate these concerns that have been raised by neighbors. That being said, I think we were just about done with all of our direct testimony, and we'll open it up if the board has any additional questions for Mr. McDonough. And I think John, are you on now?
Yep, I'm here. I can only
Okay.
see myself, so I
Okay,
can't
we
see
can see
anybody
you
else.
just fine. So I have Mr. McDonough here. If anybody has any from the board has additional questions from Mr. McDonough, kind of want to try to keep them focused on things that haven't already been addressed, just so that whether that be from the public really, but if the board has any questions, we're happy to answer those.
I have one clarification that I need, Dr. Bago.
Ms. McGovern.
There are 7 apartment units altogether, and I know there are various sizes. One of them is being designated as affordable housing. We need to know the unit number and the number of bedrooms of the unit that is being designated for the affordable housing.
Okay, I will have to discuss with Mr. Cox. I don't know that we know at this time, but we can certainly address that as a condition of approval.
Yeah, because you're going to have to deed restrict it, so it's going to have to be determined. Okay, thank you.
Of course.
Mr. McDonough, you realize that you're still under oath, sir?
I do, Mr. Chairman.
Excellent. Okay. Do any members of the board have any questions for Mr. McDonough? We go around the board. Vice Chairman Garino, do you have any questions for Mr. McDonough on his previous testimony?
Not at this time, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Mayor McCartney, do you have any questions for Mr. McDonough on his previous testimony?
Not at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilperson Scarpa, do you have any questions for Mr. McDonough on his previous testimony?
No, not at this time.
Thank you. Mr. Albert, do you have any questions for Mr. McDonough on his previous testimony?
No, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Wilks, do you have any questions for Mr. McDonough on his previous testimony?
No questions.
Thank you. Mr. Klein, do you have any questions for Mr. McDonough on his previous testimony?
I just want to ask a question. I'm not sure if it's appropriate to Mr. McDonough, but talking about some kind of a film on the windows in the back, is it possible, even though it's not the applicant's property, is it possible to put some landscaping on the neighbor's property to do some natural screening, maybe a couple of evergreens that maybe either line up or offset or however with the windows to try to help soften up the back of the building? Is that an appropriate thing to ask?
I mean, I guess I can answer that question. I mean, I think we have some difficulty in terms of, one, we're not legally permitted to do anything on somebody else's property, and we have such a small amount of space behind that building. I believe Mr. McDonough, he's a landscape architect himself, and he testified that there's no room to really put anything there. Well, we're happy to work with the neighboring property owners. It's not really something that we can do.
Okay, so if the neighbor had agreed to that, that'd be something that the applicant would discuss with the neighbor and come to some resolution.
Correct.
Okay,
Correct. No, it's not separate and apart from the planning board.
great. Thank you.
That's
So,
all for me. That's all for
Thank
me.
you. Mr. Morgan, do you have any questions for Mr. McDonough on his previous testimony?
Not at this time, sir.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Cardoza, do you have any questions for Mr. McDonough on his previous testimony?
No, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Ms. Capra, do you have any questions for Mr. McDonough on his previous testimony?
I do not. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Hazel, do you have any questions for Mr. McDonough on his previous testimony?
Not at this time. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Scott, do you have any questions for Mr. McDonough on his previous testimony?
No questions at this time. Thank you.
Okay. Do any members of the public have any questions for Mr. McDonough on his previous testimony? Please raise your hand and be identified.
Dr. Bagoff, I
Yes.
do know that the objector, I can see they have an expert, Mr. Steck. I don't know whether you want to call him up before you, because there's,
Does he have any questions for Mr. McDonough? Does he want to present?
oh, I thought that's what you were going towards. I'm sorry, I didn't mean
Okay.
to interrupt.
That's okay. We could have, so if Mr. McDonough wants to hang around, we could have Mr. Steck testify and then we could work backwards. I'd be fine with that. Mr. Zerbal, is that okay?
Yeah, that's fine. I think that we'd gotten through most, if not all, of the public questions last time. I know we heard from Mr. Buckley, Jamie C., Lenny Carr, Jamie C. twice, and then Shelby, Donna Ewer, Stan Shapiro, and Austin Shelby again.
Okay. Well, you just brought back Mr. McDonough, so I just wanted to be sure.
Of course. No, I just wanted him to be available if the board had any remaining
Thank
questions.
you. I got it. Thank you. Okay. Would you advance Mr. Steck to the board, please?
Doing it right now.
And then Ms. McGovern can swear him in.
I do, just while we're bringing him in, I do see there's a member of the public, Jerry Sweeney, who has his hand up. So I don't know whether that's a question or has something to do with Mr. Steck. I don't.
Okay, Mr. Sweeney, would you bring Mr. Sweeney on? We'll find out what he wants to say.
Okay. Mr. Sweeney, did you have a question? You have to unmute yourself.
Hold on. Yes, I have questions. Absolutely.
Questions for Mr. McDonough?
Questions for Mr. McDonough?
Okay, go ahead. You have 3 minutes, sir.
Okay, thank you. Mr. McDonough, I want to go over some of the alleged benefits that this improvement would have. First, I want to address the improvements to the tenants, the residential tenants. You made a point that the location is in a walkable area, but you never said the building was walkable. And to get to the building, you have to go back 126 feet, and it's a very extreme elevation. So I did want to ask you, what's the difference in the elevation between the sidewalk, elevation of land, and the first floor?
I don't know.
Don't know, okay. 20 feet, 25 feet?
Between the sidewalk in front of the site and the actual front door
Yes,
to the building,
yes, that's what I'm trying to find
I
out.
don't think it's that extreme. I don't think it's that extreme.
Well, I do know that the,
Sir, ask questions. Whatever you know is great, but you can't testify, sir.
yeah, no, I know, but I have to use the records. Matrix indicated that it was greater than 10% grade. At 10% grade, that elevation would be to the base of the wall would be about 22 feet higher. So to walk up there, you'd have 22 feet, you'd have to go 126 feet to the back. And I'm just asking if you can verify that. 126 feet to the back. You'd have to then go up about 22 feet, plus you'd go up the 4 feet, about 26 feet. To get to the second floor, it's going to be another 10 feet, so that's about 36 feet. And the fourth floor would be about 46 foot. So essentially, would you say that to walk from the sidewalk to the third floor, you would essentially have to go 126 feet laterally, and what amounts to a stair of 4 stories high. You have to walk that. So I want to ask you, is that in your view walkable?
Yes, the site is walkable. I've walked it myself. You
Okay.
can walk the site, yes.
You walk from the base all the way to the second floor?
I did not go inside, no.
Okay, so you only walk the lower. So you'd have to walk essentially 2 more floors to get up there. Okay, I just want to make sure that we had, you don't know what the slope is, and you don't know what do you know what the slope is, by the way, of the parking lot? Slope, you mean the angles?
I don't.
Okay, well,
I can give you the number. It's not the slope, but it's 18 feet elevation change.
I'm sorry, who's speaking?
Sorry, that's I'm the attorney for the applicant. It's 18 feet.
Okay, well, I'm sorry, are you sworn under oath?
I'm not. I'm the attorney, but I'm.
Okay, that's
In any
fine. I
event.
really wanted to know if the planner did. Let me go to the next one. He said that the building would only be increased by 34.5 feet. Is that measured from the mean height of the building?
It's measured in accordance with the ordinance. I don't know.
Okay, that is the mean height. Okay, so what's the difference between the mean height and the base of that wall? It looks to me by about 6 feet.
I don't know. I didn't conduct the measurement.
Okay, so you would say that essentially from the front, the building would look like it's 40 feet high or equivalent to 4 stories. Is that accurate?
No, under the letter of the ordinance, it's a 3-story building.
I'm asking you if you look at it from the front, because appearance in the downtown Main Street area, appearance counts. Aesthetics count. It's an important factor. So I'm asking you, would it look like it's 40 feet high at the front?
In my opinion, no.
Okay, so let me get to the third one. And Dr. Bagoff, I'm going to ask that we extend my time. I have a few more
Okay.
questions.
One more question, sir, Mr. Sweeney, one more question and you're done, but go right
Okay,
ahead.
one more question. I want to get
Thank
the visual appearance in the area. So I want to know if Mr. McDonald walked from Lakeside Avenue to Charles Street along Main Street.
I walked several blocks, I'll say, several streets in front of the site. I don't have the street names in front of me, but I didn't only walk the site. I walked to several cross streets.
Okay, and did you notice that this lot is completely different from every other lot? It's got a very long, very huge parking lot in front of the building, very unattractive and very steep slope. Did you notice that?
I'll answer the first question in the affirmative. I did notice that the site is distinctly different than other properties along the corridor, which is the exact reason why it's appropriate for a variance condition, because variances are supposed to relate to distinct pieces of property.
Okay, and did you notice that the mass of the building was disproportionate to the adjacent buildings or any other building on that side of the street?
No.
Okay, and I just for the sake of just make sure we're all clear on this, and when you grant a variance on this, is effectively going to put in place this building and its layout with the large parking lot and really large property at the back. It'll be, in your view, will effectively permanently fix this in a way inconsistent with all the other nice new buildings that were established on Main Street across the street in which you commented on.
No.
So you don't view that the approval of this thing will result in permanent, essentially fixing that unattractive lot in the way that it appears now, in a way that's inconsistent with all the other downtown properties in the area on that side of the street or even across the street?
No.
Okay, thank you. I can't, I appreciate the extra time. I do have more questions, but I know urgency is important. So thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Sweeney. Okay, Mr. Stack.
Mr. Steck, please raise your right hand. You swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, thank you. There's no attorney that called you as a witness, right?
That's correct.
All right, so I guess you're gonna have to self-authenticate yourself as an expert.
Okay.
Dr. Bagoff, or are you gonna do the voir dire?
Ms. McGovern, what I would say is that Mr. Steck is well known to the planning board, has testified here many, many times. And the only question I'll ask is your license still active in the state of New Jersey, in good standing in the state of New Jersey?
It is.
Unless anybody has a question of Mr. Steck to Wadir, I'd recommend we accept Mr. Steck as you're here as a licensed planner in the state of New Jersey, sir?
Yes.
Yeah. Then seeing no comment, go right ahead, sir. We accept you as a licensed planner in the state of New Jersey.
Okay. By way of preparation, I did listen to the last hearing on the 2nd. And I did review the application materials. I toured the property in the surrounding area, took some photos, and reviewed the master plan and the zoning ordinance. What I think I'd like to do is put up an exhibit, reference it, and then I'll go more to my sum and substance of my testimony. So I'm going to try to share here.
Okay, and this wasn't given to the secretary to put on the.
This was revised from an earlier version, so this is new, and I will send it. I will.
Okay. Will you describe it, and Ms. McGovern will label it?
I will. Let's see if
Thank
I
you.
can put this on here.
All Are you sharing your screen or is this my computer doing this?
I'm trying to do it.
Okay.
I'm trying to do it now, and for some reason it's not. Let's see here. I'm going to try it again here. Stop share. Let me close some other stuff. Okay, we'll try this again. I'm having some trouble here. Let me try this.
Is it West Orange on the upper right? Does it say West Orange Exhibit 6?
Yeah, that's my screen, and I'm trying to get my. Let me try this one more time. I think I can get it now. You're looking at all my jobs, I guess. Is that visible?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Okay, how many pages is this?
This is a total of 6 pages.
Okay, so we'll mark this whole package O1 or objector 1 because we don't have, or do we have other photographs, Jamalet?
This will be 04.
04. Okay,
04.
so this will be 04. And then I think when I see P1, that stands for page 1. And I'm
That's
assuming
correct,
there's a-
and or Peter 1, either one.
Okay. All right. So when you refer to 04, if you could then refer to
Yes.
each page as you speak to it.
I
Okay.
will. So let me identify the exhibit, and I'll refer to it a little more later. This is dated May 6th of 2025, and it was prepared by me. Upper left-hand corner is a portion of the zoning map, and as you can see, the B1 zone goes along Main Street. It is primarily residential. Most of the uses are residential. Older housing units. Most of them are up close to the street. They have kind of classic residential looks with sloping roofs. Very few have on-site parking, so they use Main Street for a parking resource. This shows the subject property from a Google aerial view. I've outlined it in yellow. The placement of the building is highly unusual for the B1 zone. It's the only building in the area in that zone that's a box. It's the only pure office building there. It's the only building that has the parking field in front. It's the only building that is set that far back from the front property line. So it's an unusual look, an unusual shape, and an unusual placement. The second P2 of 04, on the left-hand side, I superimpose the zoning lines on a 2020 infrared satellite photo. Subject property is in yellow. To the rear is, as the board is aware, Llewellyn Park. That's an R1 zone. Across Main Street and 3 properties, the 4th property to the northeast are parts of the redevelopment area zone. On the left-hand side, you see I put the names of certain property owners. My clients are Jonathan and Amanda Barton, and their share part of the backyard. To the north of there is Sophia Lubin and Eric Buckley. And also sharing the rear yard is the Donna Ewer property. To the right shows from the NJDEP website the historic nature of the area. Llewellyn Park, as you know, is on the National Register and the State Register. To the north is the Edison National Historic Site. And across the way where the new conversion has occurred is at least a proposed on the national level, a historic district. The subject property is not referenced as historic. The blue color, according to NJDEP, says it's eligible to be designated as historic. And as you can see, the abutting properties were looked at as worker housing. I'm going to the third page now, P3. This is a drone photo of the subject property. It shows the character of the building, basically a box with vertical lines and a faux mansard roof. Apparently, it's leased for the parking of trucks at the moment. The blue house in the upper right-hand corner is the Barton House. P4 are photographs that I took on March 7th of this year. The upper photograph is from the second story of the Barton residence. So that second story, when you look out the window, is about, as you can say, even with the current roof of the property now. And you can see the buildings across the street and the tree line in the distance. That accessory shed on the right is also on the Barton property, as is the wood frame garage left of center. Lower left is a picture of the rear of the subject property. There is only a narrow area, as the board is aware, and then there is a retaining wall. And so the residential yards are higher than the grade in the building. On the right-hand side is a picture that I took on March 7th of this year, but I superimposed from another photograph that was taken by one of the Bartons to show the existing shadow pattern at 9 o'clock in the morning on February 10th. What I simply did is superimpose in a red line where the shadow falls, again, 9 o'clock in the morning. And this obviously is without the third story going on. So there is, because the shadow pattern typically goes to the north, there is obviously an impact, and it will be a more severe impact when another story is added. As you can see, in terms of the backyard of the Bartons, there's one small evergreen that's in the left of center, but there's essentially no screening in the wintertime, and the trees are fairly old. So there is, in my opinion, no effective screening at the moment that blocks the subject building from the Barton property. P5, there's been a lot of discussion about this sight line. And on the upper side, I parked my car as if I was I stopped my car as if I was driving out of the driveway. And since I have an SUV, my eye height is probably 4 feet 5 inches off the ground rather than the 3.5 feet. But because there are so few parking spaces on site for the residential uses, I frankly have never been by there where there aren't where the curb line is free of cars. Below that is a sight line exhibit that the applicant's engineer has presented, and the sight line that's required to be shown is I've highlighted in red. That rectangle to the left is where a car would be positioned. But the applicant's engineer said, well, those cars are movable, so they aren't always going to be there. Well, even on the applicant's diagram, you have to look through 6 cars in order to get the sight distance that is recommended to see a car coming. And I'm sure as the board members, so it's a busy street, and the sight line is difficult because there are always cars, in my judgment, parked along the curb line. That's both looking to the left and to the right as you're leaving the site. And as you know, during rush hour in the evening, typically there's a backup of cars. So if you're going to leave this property and turn left, oftentimes there are times where you have to wait for a courtesy gap. So it's not that there can't be any development on the property, but more intensive development has to, in my opinion, meet the negative criteria. And part of that is the level of traffic activity and the difficulty of seeing cars that are in the through lane. 6, I'm going to spend some time on, but let me leave it there for the moment. And I'm going to go through the sum and substance of my testimony, and then I'll spend some time on this slide. This property, as you know, is already non-conforming because it has excessive pavement. It has a significant violation of the rear setback as well as the rear buffer. And it has parking that is, at least by county standards, too close to the front right-of-way. The county site plan resolution says you shouldn't have cars backing up within 20 feet of the right-of-way of Main Street. So there are significant nonconformities at the moment. And another way to say that is the applicant has more building than they're entitled to. So when Mr. McDonough says there's a hardship, the answer is this building couldn't be built today, and I'm not sure you would get the same amount of square footage if you conform to the impervious coverage. That would shrink some of the parking. There's not a hardship due to existing conditions because the applicant has more building than they're entitled to today, in my judgment, looking at the limits on impervious coverage and the like. As you know, the applicant wants to put on a 3rd story, having the same footprint as the rest of the building, which is 3,303 square feet. The applicant wants to convert the 1st floor left for medical office use, which produces about 9.57 parking spaces. I note parenthetically that both the traffic report and the architect's plans used a generic multiplier for for the office space, but it's higher, and that's statistically true for the medical office space. That's 1 space per 150 square feet. So there was a lot of debate last time about how much parking is really required. And it's clear that the applicant has to rely on some kind of shared parking, even though the applicant says, oh, I'll have, limit residential tenants to 1 parking space. The answer is there still has to be a place for guests to park. And of course, the difficult day is Saturday. That's when the medical offices are going to be open. That's when there's going to be some office on the right side of the building on the 1st floor. And that's the day when a lot of people don't work. So it's not clear, in my opinion, that the applicant has met its burden in terms of the supply of parking. Part of my analysis was to look at the surrounding area, and I'm going to move back for a little bit here and go to that first thing. This is a fully developed area. This building is unique, and it's the reverse of what is normally required. If you consider this part of the downtown, and that's what Mr. McDonough kept on testifying, your master plan wants mixed uses. Well, the answer is, if you look at the design standards, you're supposed to have a building that's up toward the street to have pedestrian traffic. In this case, if that was the case, there'd be parking in the rear. And in my opinion, that's the appropriate scenario, because that parking would be depressed in elevation, and it could be buffered. But the building can't be buffered. And I note that, again, there are historic characteristics of the area that ought to be taken into account. Now, as you know, in 2019, the reexamination report recommended that the zone be changed from OB1 to B1, and the rationale was consistent with existing land uses and desired future use. Well, to be consistent with land uses, it would be a dwelling or a multiple dwelling up toward the front. That would be consistency. I'm not sure what desired future use means, because that's not described. But if you look at your design standards, and again, if you consider this part of the downtown, I took a look at the Downtown Alliance design guidelines that are in the ordinance, and it says that roof shapes should be like the surrounding structures. The new building, any new building, in this case, it's the new is the third floor, would have the same relative placement as other structures in the area. It says that new construction ought to respect the established rhythms of the streetscape. And you should have, use materials that are common in the area. So for someone to say that this is consistent with the area, in my opinion, is not correct. It simply isn't. I'll want to go to the end slide again, P6 of 04. I want to read two definitions in your ordinance. One is what a mixed-use development is, and it says a building or buildings that include one or more dwelling units above one or more non-residential uses on the ground floor. So Mr. McDonough says the master plan encourages mixed use, and the zoning ordinance has it as a conditional use. And a mixed use doesn't say you need 7 dwelling units. A mixed use says as long as you have a dwelling unit on the second floor, that's a mixed use. So for example, if the applicant didn't construct a third story and had 3 or 4 dwelling units on the second story, that's a mixed use. And that's one that is encouraged by the zoning ordinance. There's also a definition of a mixed use, which I'll concentrate on later, but I'll tell you what it says. Shall mean the dual use of a single parcel of land. All parking, yard, buffer, and other requirements applicable to each individual use shall be applied to the combined use. And I think that relates to the issue of whether a density variance is needed. As you know, the burden is on the applicant to provide testimony, and so I'm going to review briefly Mr. McDonough's testimony and say why I respectfully disagree with what he says. He first says that because the third story meets the linear height limit, that the only variance they need is for the number of stories. That's wrong. The back 30 feet of the property is supposed to have a building height of 0 feet. You're not supposed to have a building there. So in addition to needing a variance for the third story, the applicant needs a linear height variance for the back 30 feet of the property. Mr. McDonough was silent on that part. He only had the statement that the only variance in terms of height was the third story instead of 2.5 stories. And that's incorrect because there's not supposed to be any height in the back 30 feet. Mr. McDonough says that the downslope of the property mitigates the variance here. Well, as you can see on the lower left-hand side of page P6, visually, and again, the land slopes downward, but visually from the pavement in front of the building and the bottom of that retaining wall to the parapet is 40.7 feet. Much more than the 35 feet that is the average. And that's what faces the public, even though you can't see this building very easily. That's what faces the public. And in fact, as the applicant's attorney said, that you start about 18 feet higher, and I calculated 15 feet higher than the sidewalk. So when you're standing on the sidewalk, looking toward the top of this building as proposed, it's 15 feet plus 40 feet, much taller than anything. Now, the buildings across the street to the very top of the parapet are about 47.5 feet. But again, they start at the street level. So while these might be comparable in terms of height, just looking at the facade, this is actually significantly taller in terms of elevation above sea level. The slope downward is a steepish slope. It's about 12%. And that's an uncomfortable slope for parking areas, because that means when you open the door on the side of your car, it's going to go all the way out and potentially hit the car next to you. So it's a difficult parking area because of the slope. You would like to be maybe the 5, maybe 7%. This is a steep parking lot, which means that if you're opening the door uphill, it's going to be a little difficult. And if you're opening your door downhill, the door is going to kind of have its own mind. Mr. McDonough says that the building acts as a buffer to the rear. I don't agree with that. Your ordinance says that a buffer is a vegetated area. And to suggest that this building is some kind of a buffer is absurd, in my opinion, because it casts a shadow, it has a presence, and you might mitigate some of the privacy, but the answer is it's still there. People are going to be able to open windows in the summertime, potentially. There is a crowding, there's a blockage of light, air, and open space that the neighbors to the rear should rely upon. Yes, the building is already violates that, but in my opinion, adding another story is further an intrusion into what the ordinance wants. To say that the applicants to the rear ought to provide the buffer, first of all, that's not what your ordinance intended. And why should someone that has an open rear yard that wants a play area for the kids have to eat up part of the rear yard with landscaping that benefits someone else? That's not what the ordinance is about. The master plan encourages mixed use. Mr. McDonough said that multiple times. Well, mixed use doesn't mean a third story with 7 dwelling units. Mixed use says a 2-story building with 1 to 4 dwelling units on the second floor. On the upper left-hand side, I describe what a buffer is in your ordinance, and it says a buffer strip shall be planted and maintained in perpetuity with trees and shrubbery of such sizes and densities as to adequately screen the building from such abutting residential district or use. There is zero screening on this property. And it's not going to be possible to plant there to block the offensiveness of the third floor. On the lower right hand of this, I have a quote from the International Building Code, the New Jersey edition. And it says that when you have 3 or more stories and the footprint is, let's say, more than 3,000 square feet, which is the case here, it's 3,303, you're required to have an elevator. So what's weird, not weird, the plans don't show an elevator, which means there got to be changes to this, unless the applicant takes off the 3rd story. The answer is this building will be required to have an elevator. And that's not on the plans. That hasn't been discussed. That unless the applicant is going to dig into the ground, that's going to have an elevator override on the roof, which obviously adds to the visual impact of what's going on. Mr. McDonough says that the density standard, which is a maximum of 4 units, doesn't apply because it's not listed in the conditional use requirements. Well, the conditional use requirements don't talk about building height. They don't talk about impervious coverage. They don't talk about setbacks. Just because the density standard is not a conditional use standard doesn't mean it doesn't apply. And I'll repeat what the definition of mixed use says. It shall mean dual use of a single parcel of land, all parking, yard, buffer, and other requirements applicable to each individual use shall be applied to the combined use. So this property, if you look at just the residential component, has 7 units. The maximum it's permitted as 4 units. In my opinion, that's a density variance, and that's serious because that's not the type of variance that the planning board can grant. That changes the jurisdiction to the Board of Adjustment. Again, the applicant is suggesting that there is some kind of a hardship with existing conditions. The answer is the applicant today has more building and more paving that is permitted. That's not a hardship. There's already a bonus under the current development. Mr. McDonough says, be careful because you're going to get other uses there that could be more active, such as like a fast food restaurant is a bar. Mr. McDonough forgot to tell you that, for instance, in your regulations in the B1 zone, a fast food restaurant is a conditional use. And one of the conditions is that it can't be within 1,000 feet of a residential district. So this argument, first of all, we're reviewing one use that's before the board now, but his statement about be careful, you might get a bar, you might get a fast food restaurant, he ought to read the ordinance because that would not be permitted on the site. And it would be hard to justify a building that's 7 feet away from a residential property line where it's supposed to be 1,000 feet away. Mr. McDonough talked about municipal land use law purposes A, G, I, and M under NJSA 4055D-2. He said that this use promotes the general welfare by revitalizing a building, and it provides sufficient space in an appropriate location. The master plan says we like mixed uses, and the answer is by not adding a story, but converting the second story into residential use, you have a mixed use. And the applicant can still adjust the architecture of the building. The applicant says that this promotes a desirable visual environment. This is a building unlike anything in the area. It has no sensitivity to the historic surrounding properties. It is set back in an uncharacteristic A area, location on the property that doesn't contribute to the pedestrian traffic. This does not promote a desirable visual environment, in my opinion, and especially because of the rear setback. And then Mr. McDonough suggested that it's more efficient use of land, I guess bigger on the same place. Well, the answer is by going to the third story, there are not a lot of negatives. The applicant is going to have to put in an elevator, so maybe that's another $100,000 to put in an elevator. But he can be more efficient if he just converts the second story to residential use, and he doesn't need an elevator, and he's likely to have sufficient amount of parking even on a Saturday. So in summary, in my opinion, the applicant has not met the burden of proof. This third story violates the buffer. It violates the setback. And even beyond the setback, it's a half story more than what is permitted. This is a difficult land use environment because of the traffic and the sight distance on Main Street. The applicant is relying or suggesting that you plant on the neighboring property to mitigate the adverse effects of this. Doesn't make any sense. And it suggests, rather than McDonough saying there's no substantial detriment, there is some substantial detriment. And the applicant, it's unfair to say the applicant should provide the buffering that the ordinance requires on the subject property. So a two-story building with, let's say, 3-4 units on the second story, commercial use on the first floor, promotes all of the purposes of the municipal land use law. It doesn't, while it doesn't remedy the narrow rear yard setback of 6.8 feet, it minimizes the impact. In my opinion, if you grant these variances as requested, there would be substantial detriment to the public good, and there would be substantial impairment of the zone plan and zoning ordinance. And I'll repeat in the end that, in my opinion, your ordinance says that when you have a mixed use, you look at the density for the requirements for each of the components. The residential density in this zone is a maximum of 4 units. If you grant more than 4 units, in my opinion, the board does not have the power to approve this application. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Stack. So I'm going to ask the first question.
Let me see if I can dump this exhibit here. Let's see. There we go. Okay.
You used the term violation a number of times. Is it your testimony that this building was in violation of a building ordinance, of zoning ordinance when it was built?
Oh, I don't know that, whether it was or not.
But you use the term violation. So so it is your understanding that pre-existing non-conforming is a violation?
No, it's a non-conforming. There's no evidence. The applicant has presented no evidence of when this building was approved. So the answer is we don't know if it was approved by variance or what the zoning was at the time. So the record is silent on that. Rather than using a violation, I'll just say there's a non-conformity, and there's no evidence that the building placement was conforming at one time.
Okay, so right off the bat, we're going to get off the record the word violation. That doesn't exist right now.
It doesn't bother me.
Okay, good.
The only violation is the applicant is renting space to trucks now, which is a violation of the ordinance.
Okay. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to ask Mr. Hazel, if they do the 4 stories, third story, is there a requirement by code that they have to have an elevator? And the second question is, if they do that based on density, does this have to go to the zoning board? Those are the 2 operative questions before we move any further.
To respond to the first question about the whether an elevator is required or not, I am not familiar with the code without having it in front of me, so I don't have a opinion that I'm comfortable with on that particular one. In terms of the density, this is something that we did look at before this application got to this point. And Mr. Steck is correct. There is the ordinance is, in my opinion, silent on that. They do provide the density standard for the dwelling units, but in terms of the density standard for a mixed-use building, in most of the other ordinances that I'm familiar with, that there is a separate, where there is a density measure listed, it is different and it is articulated for the mixed use as opposed to the individual. So this ordinance does not do that. And I think an argument can be made either way, that it's silent because it's intentionally silent. And you know, one can take the position that Mrs. Streck is taking, that it is the density of a residential use by itself should be applied, and it's not a residential use by itself. So, you know, my opinion in this case is that it doesn't apply. It doesn't apply. The ordinance is silence on it. That's my opinion.
Okay, I'm going to go to Mr. Scott. Do you have any opinion on the elevator?
I similar to Mr. Hazel, I am not familiar with the code. It is my understanding that if there are residential uses on the upper floors, that they would potentially need to have an elevator, but I'm not sure if there is residential uses on the first floor where they do have access, accessible access with the use of the lift that the applicant is proposing. But
Okay.
for residential uses on the upper floors, I am not certain of the code.
Okay, thank you. So the next thing is Ms. McGovern. I'm sure the board always wants to act on the conservative methodology. Do we then refer this to the zoning board, or do we go with Mr. Hazel and say the ordinance is silent? As long as it's silent, the density standard that is in other zones does not apply here.
I've seen this before, and if it's not mentioned, if density isn't a requirement, it is a little bit of a glitch, and it may be going forward if the town wants to put a density limitation on mixed use, but right now there isn't. And to some degree or another, your parking requirement creates the limits as to how many apartments you can have anyway. So there is some type of limit. It's based on the parking, but there's not a specific density limit. So I don't think there's nothing to interpret here. So I don't know why the zoning board would get it. It's not a D variance in terms of a density variance, because they are strictly abiding by what your ordinance requires.
And if I may, if I remember correctly, this was
Verbal, yeah.
Yeah, sorry. If I remember correctly, this was discussed before the application was deemed complete, and it went before technical review, and it was determined that a density variance was not required in this instance.
Yeah.
Okay, I just wanted to get on the record everybody's opinion, because Mr. Steck has brought out the question, and I thought that it would be good that the board hears the answers.
Yeah, it's limited by the parking to some degree, but your ordinance is silent as to physical density or number of apartments or square footage. So if that's something going forward that the planning board wants to just make a recommendation to the town council, that might be something you want to talk about, but right now that doesn't apply here.
Okay, great, thank you. Okay, we're going to go through the board. Ms. Capra, we'll go in reverse. Ms. Capra, do you have any questions for Mr. Steck on his testimony?
I don't have any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Cardoza, do you have any questions for Mr. Steck on his testimony?
No, you asked my questions, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Morgan, do you have any questions for Mr. Steck on his testimony? Mr. Morgan? Okay, we'll come back to Mr. Morgan. Mr. Wilks, do you have any questions for Mr. Steck on his testimony?
No questions.
Thank you. Mr. Klein, do you have any questions for Mr. Steck on his testimony?
No, I don't have any questions for Mr. Steck. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Alpert, do you have any questions for Mr. Steck on his testimony?
I don't think so.
Councilperson Scarpa, do you have any questions for Mr. Steck on his testimony?
Just one quick question. How common is it that an ordinance like this for mixed use would not have a density limitation? Because as many of our ordinances are not really well written or older, I believe we do need to take a look at something like this.
There's not a standard way, in my judgment, of writing a conditional use. And again, if the board is taking the position because the word density doesn't appear in the conditional use standards, that doesn't answer the question, because it could have, the height limit isn't in the ordinance. And again, what solidifies my position is your definition of a mixed use, which says shall mean dual use of a single parcel of land, all parking, yard, buffer, and other requirements applicable to each individual use shall be applied to the common combined use. That seems to answer the question to me.
Sounds fair to me too. Thank you.
Okay, Mayor McCartney, do you have any questions for Mr. Steck on his testimony?
I took notes. Let me try to formulate them into a question. Well, first and foremost, it was about the elevators, so I would like a better understanding on that. And the other, I heard that there should be a variance on height. I recall testimony that the height of the building would be 34 feet, which is a foot less than our standard 35 foot height.
Excuse me for interrupting.
Yes.
Except,
no, go ahead if you have an answer to that.
Mr. McDonough said the only height issue is the number of stories. And that's one of the variances that you need. But when you say that there's a height limit of 35 feet and this is 34.5 feet, that presumes that the building fits within the building envelope. And again, in the back 30 feet of this property is not supposed to have any building at all. So to say that he doesn't need a linear height limit or a story height limit in the back 30 feet, both variances are needed. It's not just, you know, if the applicant had a 1-story building and it was, 6.8 feet back from the rear property line, there's no height limit. But because the applicant is outside of the building envelope, in my opinion, you need a variance from both the story height and the linear height, and there's zero testimony from the applicant about the linear height.
Okay. There was also, Mr. Steck mentioned about parking on a Saturday. We also heard testimony that True Ally at 105 Main Street is moving into this location from right down the street on 105 Main Street. There has never been a complaint about parking or traffic, and it is by appointment only. So
except you look at the number of rooms there, you look at the seats, 10 seats in the waiting room. Your ordinance doesn't say it doesn't apply if there's no complaints. The answer is your ordinance has and again, you're approving not this specific use. Any other medical office can come in here in the future, and it doesn't have to go before the town because that's the same category. Your ordinance says that there's a heightened parking factor needed for medical offices. What it was peculiar is when this application was first reviewed, and again, this went through a review committee, and no one caught the fact that this was medical offices and the wrong standard was used. The applicant has attempted to show that there's enough parking, at least if you take into account shared parking, but in my opinion, the shared parking philosophy does not apply on a Saturday because most residential people will be home, and this medical office will have hours, I believe it was every other Saturday. So the shared parking rationale does not consistently apply.
and when you say that there was a wrong standard that applied during technical review, what do you mean by that?
Both the architect's plan and the initial, I think, traffic report talked about a parking standard of 1 space for every 250 square feet. That applies on the right side of the building for generic offices, but during the initial review, it was not picked up that the medical offices has a higher standard, 1 per 150 square feet.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Vice Chairman Garina, do you have any questions?
None at this time, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, sir.
I just picked out this New Jersey AC 5.23-7.1. In West Orange, New Jersey, a 3-story building is not typically required to have an elevator unless it meets specific size and occupancy criteria or is a public building. Generally, an elevator is required in buildings 3 or more stories tall, or if any floor has 3,000 square feet or more.
And the floor is 3,303 square feet.
I'm just throwing that out to our professionals. That
could I, the architect here, could I?
yeah,
talk for a second?
Mr. Peiss, go right ahead.
Yep. So the dimension he's referring to is the outer dimension. The interior dimension is less than 3,000 square feet. It's a masonry building, so the walls are very thick. So if you use the outside dimension, that is that. So I was just trying to get the clarification of whether the interior, which is what we would typically use for a calculation like this, would suffice. So the total square footage of the interior was less than 3,000 square feet. But the exterior, because the walls are super thick, add up to that distance.
One of the neighbors is an architect that alerted to me that, so he may be able to clarify that later.
Mm-hmm. Yep, I mean, I could definitely reach out to someone to get the clarification as well. But like I said, typically when the interior dimension is less than 3,000, we'd be okay. Like I said, the walls are super thick. So we're counting a lot of dimension of bricks and such on the outside dimension.
Okay, so we're gonna keep that in abeyance as we go forward. We're gonna open this up to public questions.
Mr. Hazel has his hand up.
I'm sorry, Mr. Hazel, go right ahead, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Speck, I just want some clarification on the, you mentioned that you felt that height, both linear and number of stories was required because this building was within 6 feet of the rear property line where height of that height is not permitted. What provision of the ordinance are you taking that from?
It's as you know, as Mr. McDonough says, he refers to the Haralow, case where you kind of look at the whole thing, and I just look at the height of a building. The maximum is 35 feet, 2.5 stories, but that one dimension, in my opinion, especially in terms of negative criteria, assumes that the building is in the legal footprint.
Well, I mean,
and to say that I just, in my opinion, it relates to the negative criteria by going up higher in an area that's not supposed to have any building. But it's my opinion that the applicant needs both a linear height limit variance as well as a story height limit.
So basically, based on that rationale, any building that is technically, if this building were 1 story, to use your example, 1 story and it was 10 feet high, and it was less than the required 30 feet within the rear yard, that would also require a variance? Because
no, I think you made a good point but the answer is, from the point of view of the neighbor and the negative impact, there's not supposed to be any building there at all. And the other issue is that while the applicant is saying that we're better off because the site slopes downward, well, the answer is the height, at least from the point of view of the public, is over 40 feet tall. Now, again, this relates more to the negative criteria, but I think you have a fair point that if it intrudes on the, let's say, the rear setback, it doesn't, let's say, trigger a D variance there.
Thank you.
So, Mr. Steck, one more question. Is it your testimony, your opinion, that the building itself, if it is found to be built within a variance or at the time the zone plan allowed it, because a new story is going to be added, the building normally should be moved to the appropriate position so you could have a 30-foot rear yard setback.
Mr. Bagoff, if I may interject, I believe Mr. McDonough can offer the year in which this building was constructed. And just for our purposes, I'm unaware of any case law, ordinance, statute, or otherwise that would require a linear height variance to this effect.
I'm just asking a question. I just want to, but okay. So
Yes,
let Mr. Steck answer, and then we can go to Mr. McDonough.
The applicant has no proof, has presented no proof that this was permitted by zoning or that a variance was granted in the past. If the applicant were not going up another story, I think there would be a hardship argument. I don't think the applicant should have to demolish the building, but when the applicant is increasing the height by another story, that I don't think the applicant can rely on a hardship condition anymore. If he wants to stick to 2 stories, he can make the whole thing residential if he wants. But in my opinion, the way the application is framed, there's no evidence that it is a legal non-conforming use. And I would buy the hardship argument, except for the fact the applicant is making a major change.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Zerbil, go right ahead.
Yes, Mr. McDonough?
Shouldn't I be finished being asked questions before you call Mr. McDonough?
Just going to give us the date that the building was built.
Oh, okay. I think it was 47, he said, or something.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, hi, for the record, it's Sean McDonough. Sorry, my screen's not working, but I believe it was the 1970s that I testified to. I put the testimony on the record last time.
I think it was 74, he said, if I recall.
Okay, so we know approximately or exactly the year was built, but we still have a question: was there a variance or not a variance? Okay, so we'll go to the public. Do any members of the public have questions for Mr. Steck on his testimony? Please raise your hand and be identified. Do any members of the public have a question for Mr. Steck on his testimony? Please raise your hand and be identified.
Yes, we have Kevin Malanga. Please state your name and address for the record.
Good evening, Kevin Malanga, Ridge Road, West Orange. Good evening, Chairman Bagoff, members of the board.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening, Mr. Steck.
Good evening.
You said you took a tour of the neighborhood. So you walked around the neighborhood and you saw the architectural styles of the residential structures that are there?
Yes.
And you saw that, would you characterize that style as folk Victorian or something similar to that?
I don't know if they're Victorian, but they're kind of turn of the century houses, maybe not, 1910, 1920, but they're all wood frame. They all have slope roofs. They clearly depict a residential style. It just from there, it looks like they were built, all within about the same period of time, because they seem to have the same number of accoutrements, the same style.
And you looked at the architectural plans for the proposed building, is that right?
Yes.
And how would you characterize that architectural style? Is that a contemporary building rather than a?
I'll call it super contemporary. It's new suburban, I guess I would call it. But it doesn't reflect any of the established styles in the area.
So in your opinion, is it incompatible visually and aesthetically?
It is incompatible in terms of its style, in terms of its shape, and in terms of its setback.
I have no other questions. Thank you.
Yes, we have Anne. Please state your name and address for the record.
Hi there. Thank you. I think it's me. Ann Hirsch, 12 Edge Hill Road. I am I'm going to say spitting distance, but it's really viewing distance of what would be the third floor. I just want, and thank you, Mr. Steck, for all your insight and valuable contribution. I wondered, because you mentioned that there was some talk about the those I'm just going to call as victims who aren't being paid off, or, we're not getting any benefit from it, but we would have to, in order to protect our privacy, maybe have more shrubs planted and so forth. I don't know if anyone's aware that those of us there's a certain curve near the back of my home where we are not allowed to add extra shrubs because it would be unsafe, because the visibility of those driving and walking would be in danger. Although if you were at a building that was way too close already with yet another story up top, those people would have visibility into our yard, but the visibility for the people who are in danger on the road, where we are not going to be allowed to plant shrubs. I don't know if you were aware of that.
I was not aware of that.
Thank you.
Okay, do any other members of the public have any questions for Mr. Steck? Please raise your hand and be identified.
Yes, we have Lenny Carr. Please state your name and address for the record.
Hi, my name is Lenny Carr. I live at 83 Mountain Avenue here in West Orange. Good morning, Chairman Bagoff. Good morning. Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening, members of the Planning Committee. Mr. Stack, thank you for your testimony. I had a question. You testified in your description the differences between the R1 and the B1 zone. And my question is, it's been mentioned many times that across the street from the B1 zone that there were new developments that are 3 stories in height, and in the B1 zone that those are limited to 2.5 stories in height, right? And it was also mentioned a few times on the call that because that there are buildings across the street that are 3 stories in height, that justifies that there should be another story added to this building in the B1 zone. Is that your understanding as well?
Well, the answer is that's a completely different zone. And in my opinion, you don't take the standards from another zone. And in fact, a redevelopment zone, which doesn't have to have the same limitations as a conventional zone. In my opinion, it's improper to pick the standard from another zone and apply it to the B1 zone. And the other issue is this building is, the subject building is set back a significant distance from the front property line, which means it is not really comparable with what's across the street.
I would agree, but they're using the buildings in the close proximity as a justification to allow this other story to be added in a B1 zone. And so my question to you, Mr. Steck, is the following. If a 3rd story is allowed, do you believe that this would have any precedent-setting effects in the other areas of the B1 zone?
As a general rule, each application stands on its own, so would not automatically create a precedent. But as you know, that oftentimes, just as Mr. McDonough points to buildings, across the street, it can be brought up to try to influence a decision. But technically, it doesn't set a precedent.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Steck. That's all my questions.
Thank you, Mr. Carr. Do any of the members of the public have any questions for Mr. Steck on his testimony? Please raise your hand and be identified.
I'm not seeing any.
Okay, at this time, we'll close public comment, public questions for Mr. Steck.
Actually, we have a late hand.
Okay, come on down. Please raise your hand and be identified.
Eric Buckley, please state your name and address for the record.
Hi, everyone. Do you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, hi. This is Eric Buckley. I'm the resident of Blue Elm Park, who is an architect that Peter Steck mentioned earlier. And I just want to give,
Name and address.
Sure, it's Eric Buckley, 8 Edge Hill Court.
Great.
And yes, I'm a registered architect in New Jersey, and I'll speak to the code if you would.
Hang on one second, Mr. Buckley. Ms. McGovern, do we have to swear him in because he's giving
If he's
testimony?
going to give testimony that the board is going to accept as testimony, yeah, and yes, I have to swear you in, Mr. Buckley,
Mr.
but you
Buck-
also have to put your camera on because I don't swear in. I have to see you.
And Mr. Buckley, so there's two, I want to give you two options. One is you can just say things and your testimony will be held as a person who just says things. You can be sworn in as a licensed architect in the state of New Jersey. We will adhere you, and your testimony will be held as a licensed architect in the state of New Jersey.
Sure, I can go either way. Peter, what is your take?
You should be sworn in
Okay.
and give your credentials.
Then go right ahead, Mr. Buckley. Mr. McGovern.
Can you put your
Yeah,
camera
I
on,
don't
please?
see the option for a camera. Let me just double check here.
Probably have to let him in as a panelist first, right?
Well, he's in.
Oh, he's in, all right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm only seeing audio. I'm sorry.
He's an attendee. I can move him to panelist.
Oh, well, if he moves to panelist, maybe then you'll come up with an option to be on video.
He's coming in now.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, everyone. Do you hear me and see me now?
Yes, sir.
Yes, now we can. Okay, please raise your right hand.
Sure,
You swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, and you state your name for the record?
Sure, it's Eric Buckley.
Mr. Buckley, can you tell us about, I'm sorry, Mr.
B-U-C-K-L-E-Y.
Governor.
Okay.
Mr. Buckley, can you tell us about your education, and are you a licensed architect?
Yes.
Presently in the state of New Jersey. Go right ahead, sir.
Yes, I graduated NJIT with a bachelor's of architecture in 2010, and I hold a current architecture degree in New Jersey.
And have you
A
looked?
license? Yeah, sorry.
Thank you. Have you looked at the subject property? You've been to the subject property?
Yes,
And are you prepared to render an opinion as a licensed architect in the state of New Jersey?
correct. Yes.
Go right ahead, sir.
Okay, yeah, so I wanted to speak to the quote, the code quote that Peter brought up about the elevator. And yes, that is from IBC, and as you stated, there is also something within the ordinance for West Orange. And the architect Jason Peist, he stated that the area is, based on the masonry portion of the building, but the third floor is wood framed. So those super thick walls that he stated, they don't exist on the third floor. It's wood framed. So actually I scaled off his drawings, and what I'm seeing is roughly 3,135 square feet, which is over that allotted 3,000 square feet. Yeah, so that is in relationship to the quote about requiring an elevator if any story is over 3,000 square feet, and it's 3 stories or more.
Is that the sum of your testimony, sir?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, then I will have the members of the board ask questions if they will. Vice Chairman Garino, do you have any questions for Mr. Buckley on his testimony?
No, not at this time, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, sir.
Mayor McCartney, do you have any questions for Mr. Buckley on his testimony?
No, sir.
Thank you. Councilperson Scarpa, do you have any questions for Mr. Buckley on his testimony?
No, I do not.
Mr. Alper, do you have any questions for Mr. Buckley on his testimony?
No, thank you.
Mr. Wilks, do you have any questions for Mr. Buckley on his testimony?
No questions.
Mr. Klein, do you have any questions for Mr. Buckley on his testimony?
I guess the question's not for Mr. Buckley, it's a response from their architect, but I'm just wondering if, I don't know who to throw this out to, can they bring the building back in the back? Can they put it, if they're gonna add on, can they kick it? Well, I guess you said, Mr. Steck said the setback's 30 feet, and that's the depth of the building, so they can't put the addition on the top floor in the correct setback. Is that correct? Who knows the answer to that? I don't know. That's it.
I have a feeling that's a question for the applicant's architect.
I don't have any questions for Mr. Buckley.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Morgan, do you have any questions for Mr. Buckley on his testimony?
No question at this time, sir.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Cardoza, do you have any question for Mr. Buckley on his testimony?
No questions, thank you.
Ms. Capra, do you have any questions for Mr. Buckley on his testimony?
No, I do not. Thanks.
Mr. Hazel, do you have any questions for Mr. Buckley on his testimony?
Yeah, just by way of, I'm just trying to get a little more clarification. You're indicating that the third floor is going to be framed. Isn't the third floor within the existing envelope, or they're taking it off and building one over it? What
From-
is it
from
what
looking
is
at
your
the-
understanding of what's
Yeah, my
being-
understanding is that the existing masonry structure is for the first 2 floors and it's wood framed on the 3rd floor. So naturally, the inside portion of the wall would happen to be, we'll call it, well, the envelope, we'll call it, is larger. The actual net area is larger because of the wall thickness being thinner. 2x6 stud or 2x4, whatever they're planning on doing, is less than an 8-inch concrete wall. So, but even so, at the 2nd floor, it is, I'm calculating 3,045 square feet. So either way, the numbers are over 3,000 square feet at the existing.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Stock, do you have any questions for Mr. Buckley on his testimony?
No questions at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. Do any members of the public have any questions for Mr. Buckley on his testimony? Please raise your hand and be identified.
I'm not seeing any.
Seeing none. Thank you. I'm sorry.
Mr. Bagoff, or Chairman Bagoff, I just have a handful of questions for him.
Okay, let me just finish with the public and then I'm going to come to you, Mrs. Zerbal. So we're going to close the public question and Mrs. Zerbal, you're up, sir.
Mr. Buckley, your calculation was based on scaling off of the design?
Correct, and as long as the architect's drawings are scaled properly, these calculations should be correct.
Okay, but you did not actually see the CAD file or review the actual dimensions?
Correct.
Nothing
But
further.
yes, I would like confirmation on that if that's the case.
Yes, and we have Mr. Peist here who can respond.
Okay, go right ahead, Mr. Peist.
Yeah, I mean, right now we're looking at the calculations on the 3rd floor. The stair is moving up to go onto the 3rd floor. The floor area, if you don't include the stair, which we're getting down to the real nitty and gritty on it, because it's not technically part of the floor area because it's an open space. We're well below the 3,000 square feet on the 3rd floor.
It doesn't look like the stairs within a shaft, so therefore it wouldn't be excluded.
I could throw a shaft in there, but like I said, we're talking minuscule square feet. Like I said, we could verify everything, but the intent would be to be less than the 3,000 square feet.
Ultimately, we're talking about meeting a code, so it can't be wishy-washy.
Like I said, the adjustments can be made to reduce slightly with that. Like I said, the stair, if I don't include the stair and I put a shaft in, then that's not included as part of the floor area.
And I guess a question I do have for you, if you don't mind, the stairs look like the only means of egress. And the West Orange housing requires a second means of egress from all residential units.
Well,
So
that would be under the new construction. This is under the NJUCC, which has the building code requirement based on occupancy from the 3rd floor. So we should be okay from the number of occupants that we have.
Let me just pull up the code.
Just to be clear, I don't know if we want to belabor the point. We'll be fully compliant with the code.
Correct.
Yeah, well, so what I'm quoting is the housing code of the Township of West Orange, 14-8.11-A. And it says there shall be a second means of egress for all dwelling units except in single-family dwellings, which dwelling units are located in a basement or above the first level of any structure. So that would supersede any other codes that you're specifying.
I mean, we'd have to get clarification on that, but like I said, typically under the NJUCC, we met the requirement for the one means of egress.
Yeah, but part of your due diligence should be to look into the township codes as well.
Okay. So Mr. Peist, I think that it's up to you. Do you believe that this application fulfills the requirements of the ordinance? And
We would meet all the requirements for the ordinance for the elevator, with whatever minor adjustments we would make to the interior, to that.
And how do you plan to address accessibility to the 3rd floor? Because anything over 4 units requires accessible means of egress.
It's per floor.
What could you explain?
So under the NJUCC, it's per floor, not total.
You're adding a floor to this building, therefore it becomes a new building. Therefore, you are required to meet.
It falls back under the NJUCC. Again, like I said, we can debate the code, but at the end of the day, it goes back to the
I mean,
building department.
okay, it's accessibility code. It's not any NJC. If I'm quoting the NJAC, it falls back to the ANSI, which is the accessibility code.
So you're referring back to the barrier-free code.
Correct.
Like again, this we meet the requirements of what we have to for the barrier-free requirements.
Within the units, correct, but you don't have an accessible means of egress. So if someone were in a wheelchair, there's no way for them to get to the third floor.
It's not required under the current code.
So why even have accessible units if you can't get to them? Or adaptable
Again,
units,
it's not
sorry.
required.
Okay, so what I'm going to do, gentlemen, is now we're having a code war. What I would like to do is we're going to leave this to our building department and to decide exactly what the code is and second means of egress and the elevator. So all those will be conditions of the application if the application is voted in favor of. Okay? So that way, whatever the code requires will be done. And thank you, Mr. Buckley, for your testimony. We appreciate it.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Okay, Mr. Zerbal, anybody else, or we're pretty much done? You want to sum up everything? Or do you want to answer any other questions in rebuttal to Mr. Stack?
When we have a hand raised, he's back. Stand
back.
bro.
Hang on.
It's okay.
Hang on. Okay, the member of the public, 1 minute, Mr. Zerbal. The member of the public that would like to speak is?
Stan Shapiro.
Okay, go right ahead.
Go ahead.
You have 3 minutes, sir. State your name for the record, please.
Mr. Shapiro. He's not muted.
Okay. Mr. Shapiro, could you please state your name for the record? We can't hear you.
I'm not sure what's wrong with that.
Okay. He has his hand. Yes, he does have his hand raised.
He does. And he's not muted.
Okay. I don't know what else to say.
Hello?
Yes, sir. Mr. Shapiro.
Oh, God.
Please state your name for the record. Mr. Shapiro?
I'm not sure what that was all about, but Mr. Hazel is raising his hand too.
He found something funny. Mr. Hazel, go right ahead, sir.
You're on mute, Jerry.
Sorry about that. This is a question I had before the applicant's architect moved himself, was done. I just wanted to confirm what exactly the building, how exactly this is going to be constructed. Right now, the building as it stands, is it at 35 feet tall? That's my understanding based on the plans.
It's slightly under 35 feet tall.
Slightly under. Okay, so basically the envelope, if you will, or the envelope, the building envelope that exists now is going to be essentially the same. It's basically the cake will be the same. It's just the slices are going to be different.
Correct.
Thank you.
Mr. Shapiro is back.
Okay, Mr. Shapiro, state your name for the record and please ask your question, sir.
He just unmuted, but we still can't hear him.
Okay. Can he type his question in chat? Mr. Shapiro, can you type your question in chat?
I don't know if they have access to that. I can change the. I can change.
Hello?
Yes, Mr. Shapiro. Okay. didn't work.
Should I try promoting them to panelists?
Promote them to the panelists. Let's give it a try,
Okay,
please.
let's see if that works. It's not allowing me to do that either.
Okay.
Oh, wait, here it comes. Here it comes. Mr. Shapiro, are you here? All right, you need to unmute. I can see you. There you go.
If this still doesn't work, he should be able to use chat now that he's a panelist.
That's very true.
Hello?
Oh, no, we got you, maybe.
Mr. Shapiro, can you hear us? Say your name for the record, please. Or go into the chat box and type your question, please, and for who it's for. Okay, I think we've exhausted our efforts here. Mr. Shapiro, you have to unmute yourself, or no?
It's not working.
Headphones are now working. Okay. Sorry, sir. Okay, that will end this portion of the application. Mrs. Zerbal, you want to sum up? Or say anything else?
Yes, just very briefly, I'll sum up. We've heard from a number of experts, our professional planner, our professional engineer, our professional architect, and our traffic engineer, who've all provided testimony to the effect that, this application satisfies the requirements for the granting of a C variance as under the flexible C balancing test. As the benefits substantially outweigh the detriments. So we ask just that this board grant our application permitting the addition of a third story, subject to the conditions that we had discussed previously.
Okay, so Ms. McGovern, can you discuss the conditions that we've ascribed so far?
It's going to take a while because there are a lot of them.
Okay.
Okay, well, we have our standard conditions and then specific to this application. Applicant will agree and abide by all the suggestions and directives of the matrix reports. The applicant will abide by the township tree ordinance. A white roof will be constructed. HVAC units on the roof of the building will be moved and consolidated at the front of the building so to provide consideration for the neighbors behind the building. Applicant shall install and maintain a sound insulation partition wall to muffle the sound of the HVAC system on the roof. No portion of the building may be used as an event space. Applicant agrees to fully comply with the noise ordinance. Applicant will mill, replace, and restripe the entire parking lot. The proposed lighting will not have any spillage onto neighboring properties. Applicant agrees to clean out and confirm to the satisfaction of the township engineer that the existing stormwater system is functioning as intended. No exterior lighting on the rear of the building. All debris will be cleaned up. Parking spaces will be 1 ADA, 2 EV, and 21 standard, removing the front regular space from the plans to allow for better turnaround. Applicant will install and maintain car bumper stops to keep vehicles from overhanging onto the walkway. Applicant will regrade the slope for the ADA parking space and will submit plans showing that regrading to the township engineer for approval. Trench drain grates will be repaired or replaced to make sure they lay flat. Applicant must replace the current wooden fence and replace the fence with a concrete or block wall. Applicant will install a fence or some other control to prevent neighbors from parking in the parking lot. Applicant must supply the lighting fixture table. Applicant must supply sewer calculations to the township engineer to demonstrate if there is sufficient sewer capacity and must show the connection point and that the lateral can handle the sewer connection. Applicant must change the sewer pipes from 8 inches to 12 inches. Applicant shall submit the grading plan for the driveway apron. The fire subcode official shall evaluate the parking lot for fire lane markings, and applicant shall abide by the direction of the fire code official regarding the necessary striping. Applicant shall submit a full-sized sheet demonstrating site triangle. Applicant will submit deed restriction for one of the apartments designating the specific unit and description of number of bedrooms. Applicant will comply with paragraph 2.17 of Matrix's April 1, 2025 addendum to include sewer connections calculations that can handle the lateral and proposed increased flow. That's not duplicate from the other one I just said. The applicant shall list all conditions of medical office use is limited to the unit 1 on the first floor of 1,436 square feet. No medical use in the second commercial space, which is 1,388 square feet. Applicant to submit parking plan for shared parking for medical office use and residential use. Applicant will install privacy film in the rear of the third floor windows, and the building department to review the need for an elevator and additional means of egress. And
I
that's
would
it.
also offer that a condition that the parking lot will not be rented out to any trucks or any other vehicles once a C of O is obtained for this building. Only guests and people who rent there will be able to use the parking lot.
Okay.
I wanted everybody to hear that first, and unlike usual, we're going to go to public comment next. But the public can hear about all the conditions that are proposed. One of the condition I would offer that if the neighbors wish, the applicant will place screening on their land that they will have to maintain in perpetuity at the expense of the applicant. That will be arranged that will be made, an offer will be made. The neighbors can reject the offer, but it'll be a good faith offer by the applicant as a condition. It's not something the board can require them to do, but the applicant has said in the past they would. And if approved, it is a condition of the application. So to that end, now we'll go to public comment. Do any members of the public have comment about this application? Please raise your hand and be identified. You have 3 minutes to speak to the board.
Yes, we have Jonathan Barton. Please state your name and address for the record. You need to unmute. Jonathan, you need to unmute. All right, we're going to come back to Jonathan. We're going to go to Jamie C.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, go right ahead, sir.
Okay, hi, yeah, it's Jamie Copperthwaite. I don't know how to change my name from Jamie C, but I live at 11 Edge Hill Road, and is this just general comment on the
Yes,
on
sir.
whether we
On this
yeah.
application, sir.
Thank you, thank you. Yeah, I appreciate the conditions that have been made. I just want to speak against this variance being granted on a notion of like just fairness to the property behind them. There was some talk about in the beginning on the part of Mr. Cox that Llewellyn Park or somehow this is some, we've got all this space or something, but I can pretty much guarantee you that he has more property around town than the people who live directly behind him. And it seems like the push for this third floor is to enhance the value of his investment. And I just think that's unfair to do that at the expense of somebody else's home investment, which is, I know, a very big investment for the people who live directly behind this. And I don't think that's fair. So I don't think a variance should be granted. Thank you for letting me speak.
Thank you. Do any other members of the public have comments about this application? Please raise your hand if identified, and let's have the clock up for the comments, please, for 3 minutes.
Oh, yes, sorry, forgot about that.
That's okay.
Rita DiMatteo.
Go right ahead. Please say the name for the record and go right ahead.
My name is Rita DiMatteo. I live at 11 Rocky Way in West Orange. I also object to this variance. I feel that the building with the third story on it will cast a shadow, and it will have an overbearing presence that crowds the neighborhood, Llewellyn Park, which is directly behind it. a historic neighborhood that is listed on the National Register and State Register of Historic Places. It's a historic district. The building is only 7 feet away from this residential district. And while I heard this evening that we don't know whether there was a variance granted when it was built or not, the fact is that building a third story on it at this point really, in my opinion, creates an intrusion that should not be approved by the board. I think that West Orange, we've worked with the West Orange Historic Commission on many occasions, and I think West Orange tries to be sensitive to the historic character of West Orange, and particularly Llewellyn Park, which is part of the Main Street corridor. And we would not like to see an intrusion like this. As Mr. Steck said, the buildings on either side of this property also are different in historic characteristics from this building. And again, adding the additional story on it just makes it much more intrusive in the streetscape. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Do any of the members of the public have any comments about this application? Please raise your hand and be identified.
Yes, we have Anne. Please state your name and address again for the record.
Yes, thank you. Anne Hirsch, 12 Edge Hill Road. Thank you so much. Again, I'm behind what is being proposed. And as Rita was just saying, the looming presence is a little bit different from when we first moved into Llewellyn Park. We were told, for instance, we can't have a fence because that wasn't part of the Romantic period. And in good faith, we've been following, not just us, but everyone here follows a certain plan to keep the historical nature. Having a looming non-Romantic period shade giving when we were expecting sunlight, privacy taking away when we had privacy, view taking, we have a lovely view right now. We are not going to have that anymore. We're not being, aside from the offer of we can plant some shrubs, which as I mentioned before, my property, we cannot plant shrubs anymore. But our property taxes have just gone up an amazing amount, very much. Why are we not being protected? Like, what are we getting for it? We need to be protected. This is something we need to be protected from. The houses that are around this area had been originally grandfathered in. They are not the big mansion things that somebody might have mentioned that when they think of Llewellyn Park homes. This is not that. These are smaller homes with little backyards that deserve to be protected. Won't somebody please protect us? And thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Do any members of the public have any other comments about this application? Please raise your hand and be identified.
Yes, we have Jonathan Barton. Unmute, Jonathan. Oh, I heard a click. Jonathan, we can't hear you. Oh, okay, he's gone. All right, we have Joe Sweeney.
Go right ahead.
Please state your name and address again.
Gerald Sweeney, 24 Oak Bend, Llewellyn Park, West Orange. First, I want to say that the approving this does not provide any of the real benefits they wanted. To provide the residents the second floor, third floor, people are going to have to walk 126 feet. They're going to go up essentially 4 stories. They're going to have to walk unless that elevator is installed. It's going to be burdensome. The only residents can do that will be, actually basically exclude people with young children, elderly people. It's only the athletic that are going to be willing to do that. Second, it would not help the downtown because the downtown standards have pretty much been set forth in the guidelines for the downtown, which values aesthetics. The sample of what's been done lately in downtown is the Edison Lofts. That's beautiful. That's across the street. By contrast, this will make permanent this ugly, long parking lot up front with a massive building in the back that is not non-conforming. As to the variances and the detriment, no variances should be granted for either the setback or the height. Those are intended to protect light, air, and open space. And here, huge shadows will be cast in back of it. And that's an important element of one of the purposes of the both the zoning ordinance and the municipal land use laws. It's also to preserve privacy. All of this would be allowing the third floor will interfere with the privacy from people on the side and the back. Third, it is not won't maintain continuity of appearance in the surrounding buildings. It's wholly inconsistent with the surrounding buildings. That building, if you grant it, you will essentially make the downtown a place where there'll be a missing tooth. The missing tooth is just the point where this property is. You come along, all the buildings are up to the sidewalk, all the residential buildings, the access is within about 30 feet. This one, you have this massive and ugly and steep parking lot. You got privacy, and also the building as added will be disproportionate mass, character, size, and height to any of the adjacent buildings, or even the immediately adjacent or anything on that side of the road. In short, this application should be denied. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Do any other members of the public have comments about this application? Please raise your hand and be identified.
We have Amanda Barton. Go ahead, Amanda.
Can you hear me?
Yes, go right ahead.
Okay, thank you. Hi, Amanda Barton at 10 Edgehill. As we've established, we're the neighbors directly to the west of this property in question. My husband Jonathan and I, we are relatively new homeowners. We're late in buying our first home due to my prolonged medical training, and we really feel at home in West Orange. Our kids go to public school here. They also love it here. We don't own multiple properties. This house is our entire life savings, our whole nest egg, and we bought it knowing that this building, which really never should have been built where it is, but was something we were going to have to live with. But we also trusted that the zoning laws for West Orange would prevent anyone from making it even worse than it already is. We believe it's been shown already that there are multiple issues with this proposal. The only conditions for mitigating these issues, the landscaping that has been proposed, while we do appreciate that takes up our yard area, which is already very small, half an acre. And those conditions don't account for the sunlight issues and many of the other issues that have been mentioned. I think the applicant has failed to show that there would be any legitimate benefit to adding a third story to this building rather than just repurposing the existing structure. If this application is approved, essentially running roughshod over the regulations that are designed to protect tax-paying homeowners in West Orange like us, it not only materially devalues mine and my husband's investment, it really undermines the confidence that people can have in these systems of local government. We urge you to please consider the detrimental impact this would have on our property and our young family, not to mention its disregard for the historic community of Llewellyn Park, while I think in many people's opinion, not adding significant value to the downtown. Thank you. Also, my husband, Jonathan, is having audio trouble. Is it okay if he speaks on my account?
Absolutely. Go right ahead. We'll reset the clock when he starts.
Thank you.
Hi, so sorry about that. It's a privacy setting on my phone. That's really embarrassing. Can everyone hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I wanted to echo some of my wife's sentiment, but just to be really honest, I want to be clear that we are not opposed to development, and we do support a vibrant, revitalized downtown. We're excited about the idea of that. As she mentioned, our children go to school here. You know, we're relatively young homeowners. It took a really long time to get there. But if you took a moment to honestly look at this particular building, I know it can feel abstract when we're faced as people speaking before the board, but if you stood in front of it, I think everyone would understand why we're so vehemently opposed to this. It doesn't serve any particular goal for revitalizing downtown. What's being proposed is kind of a bulky, unattractive structure that already looms over our backyard. We've accepted living in its shadow currently, and we knew what we were getting into when we bought our home, but we never imagined that a third story would be added to the building that already sits so close to our property line. So we understand the appeal of fixing up the facade, but we see this building every single day more than anyone else. We're right next to it, and we are saying plainly we would rather it stay exactly as it is than have it quote unquote improved by adding another 15 feet in height. Now, we're being put in a position where, to preserve any sense of privacy or you know, the beauty of our property, that we may have to plant a buffer on our own property just for a developer to squeeze in a few more apartments, and it just doesn't seem fair. And it doesn't feel like responsible planning. So I just wanted to make it clear that, you know, we are real people. We are residents of West Orange. We love this town. Our children love their schools. And we are looking forward to living here for a very long time. And we really appreciate it if the board would not kind of add insult to injury on this particular property. So thank you so much for your time and for being patient after I had technical issues.
Thank you very much. Do any other members of the public have any comments about this application? Please raise your hand and be identified.
Yes, we have Heath Shelby.
Can you all hear me?
Yes, go right ahead.
Okay, yes, hi. As a 5 Edge Hill Court, West Orange, New Jersey, as a 30-year resident of the town of West Orange and as a commissioner of the West Orange Historic Preservation Commission in town, I am supportive of a healthy and vibrant downtown, but in balance with historic preservation. I really urge you all to think about the impact that this type of development will have 7 feet from the property lines of one of New Jersey's preeminent historic properties. Excuse me. What I am seeing is that a property that was non-conforming is asking or requesting a second non-conforming use that will enhance the applicant's property and add renewed notables for the ratables for the township, yet the neighboring property values would be greatly impacted. It is a visible intrusion to have a third story added to this building, and I really hope that you will consider the weight of this applicant's request heavily in terms of how it will impact the historic nature of Llewellyn Park. Thank you.
Thank you. Do any of the members of the public have any comments about this application? Please raise your hand and be identified.
Yes, we have Stan Shapiro back.
Yes, can you hear me now?
Go right
Is it
ahead.
working? Yeah, sorry about that. I was having some difficulties with my mic or computer. So this is Stan Shapiro. I live in Llewellyn Park at 12 Edge Hill Road, near where this application is, the property of this application. And I oppose and I request that the board reject this application for the variance. I want to, there was an argument or a discussion was made, and the applicant's representatives, or maybe somebody affiliated with the board, was interpreting the conditional use rules contrary to Mr. Steck. Mr. Steck pointed out that all the requirements, including the density requirements, would apply to both the residential and the commercial use. It says all other requirements, but the argument that because that notwithstanding that language in the conditional use provision, that all other requirements would apply, the argument that somehow if you're using it for a residential use, there's a density limit, and then if you add you make it a mixed use and add a commercial use to it, that density limit would go away and you could go and add more plus the commercial. It makes no sense. That is an illogical, unreasonable interpretation of the rules. I respectfully submit, and it shouldn't be applied to this application that way. That the density, now the density use that they want to use, add another story to add 3 or 4 more apartments on the it doesn't apply to a hardship. If I heard the applicant has a medical practice, there's sufficient space on the ground floor for his medical practice, and he could have the residential units on the existing second floor. It's really just to enhance for himself the value of the property he has. It's not a hardship to use it. Now, they say they don't know if there was a variance or how that building got put up without the buffer all the way on the edge. It's clearly an intrusion on the neighboring properties as it exists. We don't know why or how that happened before, but now to go ahead and make it that much worse by adding another floor, that's not logical. That's just making it worse. It should to benefit the Main Street corridor. If you're going to renovate, you should be moving that property up to the sidewalk line, relocating it so that it conforms to the abutting properties on Main Street. Anyway, I thank you. One last thing. This notion that there's only one, when I heard the debate of the architect that they have a third floor with no elevator and only one means of egress, and in an emergency we'll have 3 or 4 residential units up there. That's what this board is going to allow? That if in case of there's a fire, those people have only one way down? That's whether or not the codes, they're going to look at those codes, but use common sense. That's not the variance we should be doing. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Do any of the members of the public have any comments about this application? Please raise your hand and be identified.
I'm not seeing any. Oh, wait, sorry. Lenny Carr. Please state your name and address for the record.
Hi, good evening. It's Lenny Carr from 83 Mountain Avenue. Thank you again, Planning Board. Thank you again, Mayor, for hearing us out. I will say for the record that I actually sit on your side of the seat most evenings. I was appointed to the State Investment Council by the governor, so I hear the public's comments all the time about how we're the fiduciaries of the state's monies and better ways to do it. So I appreciate the service that you're contributing tonight. And my statement is following on the statements of my neighbors around West Orange who have lived here for a long period of time. And that is, on the technical perspective, Mr. Steck raised excellent points. On the rationale, there are some serious objections. The one point that I'll make that I think wasn't made by the previous speakers is if you take a look at where this property sits, it is directly in the middle of the Edison Historical Site and the Llewellyn Park Residential Historical Neighborhood, right square in the middle. And you would expect that that significant property would strive to have some type of historical characteristics embedded in it. And instead, you heard from a developer who doesn't want to abide by the historical characteristics in order to improve a downtown that all of us have worked hard to improve, and all of us have worked hard to create a better West Orange through our community and through our efforts. You heard of a developer who says that in exchange, and I look at deals all the time for the state, in exchange of making some surface changes to the exterior, we ask this planning board to give us a significant variance to add a third floor where there are no other third floors in this neighborhood. But give us a third floor here. Give us the permission to do it. And that third floor actually has you listen to the architect's like, oh, we don't meet this code, we'll just add this small thing. They want to do the least amount in order to gain the most value for that property. that doesn't sound like an investment. That sounds just like profit taking. And I think West Orange is more than that. And I wish this planning board would just consider the impact it would have to Llewellyn Park. All of us have been on these calls just as you have, and have listened to these arguments. We ask that it consider the impact that it's going to have to the Edison changes, because it will survive long past this board's time on the planning committee. And I want to live here in a beautiful neighborhood with people who contribute, and my neighbors do too, and all of West Orange does that. So I kindly and respectfully ask this planning committee to reject the variance application. It has not met the hardship requirement, and I thank you again.
Thank you. Do any of the members of the public have any comments about this application? Please raise your hand and be identified.
Yes, we have Sophie. Please state your name and address for the record. She keeps moving around. There we go. Go ahead, Sophie.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Sophie Lubin, 8 Edge Hill Court. So I also live on the other side of, I live in Llewellyn Park. I can see this building from my home. We moved to the park about 2 years ago, and truly are in support of the revitalization of West Orange. You know, we had high hopes for the downtown, for the Main Street when we moved here, and moved to the park because of the historic nature, of course, and of Thomas Edison's museum. We the current building, I think we can all agree, as it is today, is very unsightly, and we are huge proponents of someone doing something about that. But the proposed design, as we've kind of drummed on and on about, has absolutely no historical value, no historical relevance. I don't think that even was part of the conversation when that building was being designed. There's absolutely, from a material standpoint, from an architectural language standpoint, no connection to anything on that street. So yes, it is already an eyesore, and we are 100% in support of that building becoming more, you know, beautiful and functional. But that is not what we're talking about right now. And as we've discussed, the third story is only adding value to the property owner and not to the surrounding areas, not to Llewellyn Park. And, you know, in fact, they really made no effort to see what, you know, what the view was like from our side of the fence until the push came to shove, and we really had to invite them over. But there was no effort made for them to see the perspective from the west view, which is extremely concerning. I think it was the applicant's attorney at the beginning of the call that said that this variance would improve relationships with the homes that surround it, but to not even consider those neighbors at the upfront and during the research process, when looking at the view and the true impact, I think speaks volumes about the disregard that was, the attitude of disregard for the neighbors and for the sunlight and for the privacy and for the property value of those neighbors. So I would really urge the board to turn down this application and this variance, and consider the historical nature of our town and where this property sits, and the homeowners who have invested heavily in this town. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Do any of the members of the public have any comment about this application? Please raise your hand and be identified.
Seeing none.
Okay, so we'll close public comment. Okay, do any members of the planning board have any comments, or would anybody like to make a motion?
Chairman Bagoff, before we
Go right ahead, Mr. Goebel.
Ms. McGovern, if you could just read back what that last condition was, I didn't quite catch it.
Okay, let's see if I can, I'm trying to work on the wording on it. Applicant will make an effort to work with the neighbors bordering the rear of the property to plant trees or shrubs should the neighbors desire, which would be maintained by those neighbors.
Okay, all right, I just have a concern about enforceability of that potential condition. because it's really beyond the scope of a site plan application or approval to require off-site improvements on adjoining properties.
Yes, it
And
is, but the applicant
not opposed.
did make that representation when we first started. So I'm just parroting what the applicant offered way back when.
Of course, and we're perfectly willing to do that. But I suppose Ms. McGovern and I can tweak the language to make something work.
Okay, well, I can write it, applicant will make reasonable efforts.
Perfect.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you, Ms. McGovern. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Do any members of the planning board want to make a motion? Mr. Alper.
I had a couple of questions, I think. First,
Go right ahead, Mr. Alper.
did we have testimony on the hours of the day that the most impacted property would be newly shaded? You know, how many more hours than what they're currently in the shade? I don't recall if there was.
I don't recall hearing that.
I think the only testimony was Mr. Stack, who drew the line to show where the shade was at 9 a.m.
In February, yeah, when the shadows are the longest.
But not, there was nothing on how long that was there before it was
That's correct.
gone.
No.
My second thing is, I know he's not yet a planning board member, but if the incoming planning board member is still in the audience and as a fire official has anything to add on the second means of egress question, I'd like to hear that. And I'd like to make sure that depending on what that answer is, I don't remember if we made a condition regarding that, but there maybe should be a condition regarding that.
There is a condition, just so you know, because I did add that after the testimony. Building department to review need for elevator and additional means of egress. So there is a condition in here for that.
Okay, do we need to hear from fire on that, or are we?
We could add to the condition the fire subcode official will evaluate the overall plan.
Mr. Noberine had his hand raised.
Right ahead, Captain. You can promote him
Okay.
to the board.
Okay, he's coming in. He should be here in a second.
Okay.
I apologize, Captain.
Okay, just so everybody knows, Captain Oberine will be appointed to the planning board. He is presently a captain in the West Orange Fire Department, and he is a code official. He is licensed code official.
So just to piggyback off of what you just said, I would definitely refer to the fire subcode official to confirm. But as I listened to the application, that was definitely a thought process of mine, was the egress in the back. Being a third story, only one way out, definitely poses a problem. But I would have to check with, again, the fire subcode just to ensure that it would be compliant.
Thank you.
Okay, so if something is not compliant, it's not going to be allowed to be built.
Oh yes, I'm aware of that. I just wanted to ensure that I would refer to him prior to making an assumption.
Yeah. So the building subcode, the fire subcode official would have to look at the plans and say that X, Y, or Z means of egress would be acceptable under the code.
Yeah, if that ends up requiring something like an external fire escape, would that come back to us the way it just did for community house?
You can put that as a condition.
Yes.
You can add that to the condition. Right now it reads building department and fire subcode official to review the need for an elevator and additional means of egress. And if either are required,
They'd have to come back because the plans would change.
must return to the board.
And same for elevator, if the elevator ends up being required and the structure has to go even higher to accommodate that.
Right, change in plans for those items. Okay.
Okay, I think those were my questions. I think Mayor McCartney's got her hand up next.
Great.
Thank you.
Mayor McCartney.
Chairman, it sounds like you're getting ready to take a vote and we don't have this information. I don't feel ready to vote at this moment when we have these outstanding questions about particularly the elevator.
Well,
it sounds
that's
like
what
you're making a condition, but yet I don't feel that this is actually complete.
then we can go through the board. We can, one option is to poll the board and see if the board feels they have enough information to vote on it. If the board does not, then the applicant has the right to ask for a vote or can delay till these pieces of information are brought to the board for our information. So would you like, Mayor, would
I
you like?
appreciate that. I do appreciate that because I don't like the idea of putting the conditions and then
Okay.
assuming this is all going to happen and then we're going to get it back. I'm not really comfortable with that at all.
Mayor, are you asking the chair to poll the board?
Yes.
Okay, good. So at this time, I'm going to poll the board. And the question is to the board members, do you feel that based on the testimony, the objector's testimony, Mr. Steck, and public comment, you have enough information to make a reasonable decision based on the law and ordinance? And I'm going to go through the board. You'll say yay or nay, and then we'll count. And Yamilet, you'll take the count?
Yes.
Mr. Guarino, yes, we can vote, or no, you need more information?
No.
No, you need more information. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Mayor McCartney, yes, we can vote, or no, we need more information?
I'm saying no, we need more information.
Councilperson Scarpa, yes, we can vote, or no, we need more information?
No.
Okay. Mr. Alper, yes, we can vote, or no, we need more information?
No, we need more.
Mr. Wilks, yes, we can vote, or no, we need more information?
No.
Okay. Mr. Klein, yes, we can vote, or no, we need more information?
No, we need more information.
Mr. Morgan, yes, we can vote, or no, we need more information?
No, we need more information.
Thank you. Mr. Cardoza, yes, we can vote, or no, we need more information?
No.
Ms. Caffrey, yes, we can vote, or no, we need more information?
No.
My vote is no, we need more information. Now, I'm going to ask the applicant's attorney. You heard the mind of the board. You can still ask for the board to vote if you so choose. If you want to hold off and have more information for a subsequent meeting, we can do that. Up to the applicant.
Could we just get a concise list of what information the board is looking for?
Yes. Absolutely. Okay. Mayor McCartney, what pieces of information were you looking for that have not been presented?
I am looking for, particularly on the elevator, the ingress and
Elevator,
egress.
second
Yep,
means
on
of
the
egress.
floor. Yep.
Okay.
And initially I had asked that question about the height of the building.
Okay.
I heard testimony that it was 34 feet, I'm sorry. It sounds less than what we are accustomed to in all the houses in the area, so I would like that to be confirmed.
Okay, so you'd like to know what the heights of the houses are in the area and what the finished product height of this building is.
Right.
We also want to know what the structure of the third floor is. It is going to be wood, is it going to be masonry?
And the other question that just came up too with Mr. Carr's question is we didn't really talk about the facade of the building and any features and what the building would look like, and is it, how will it be resurfaced?
I think the applicant presented pictures, renderings that are on our website, but we could also have testimony about that.
Were they colored? Were they colored
Yes,
renderings?
yes, the colored renderings.
Remember.
They're on our website, but we could ask the applicant to provide testimony about the materials. And the applicant's also heard that people in Llewellyn Park have asked for things that are more in a historic nature that may or may not occur, but that was some of the public comment.
How about, can we get a proper shadow study? I don't know, it's probably not required based on the height, but that drawing that Mr. Steck provided is one moment in one day.
We can ask the applicant, and the applicant may or may not do it. So we're coming up with a list of questions that would help the board make a decision.
And Chairman, to that point too about the shadowing, maybe it's a time frame, as the sun rises in the east.
4 seasons, yeah.
Right. What that looks like, because that might be a time frame of what we're looking at, a shadow rising in the east.
Yeah,
and
they
in
usually
the
do
west.
the
And how long are we
longest.
talking about a shadow?
Okay.
And which properties it would hit.
Right.
And I'm going to ask Mr. Hazel or Mr. Scott, do you have any other recommendations, listening to the comments of the public, or things that you would need that would help the board making our decision?
Mr. Hazel?
Yeah. Not that hasn't been mentioned as yet.
Okay.
Same here. I think the members of the board have kind of covered all of the additional requests for information.
Thank you, Mr. Scott. Mr. Klein.
Yeah, I know Mr. Steck made a good point about the slope of the parking lot, but it's an existing parking lot. So if people are opening up their car doors back when it was occupied, they either bumped into their neighbor or they had a tough time opening it uphill. Maybe get a little clarification on that. Is there a maximum slope? Should it only be an 8% driveway, but it's 10% parking? I'm sorry, parking lot? Is there any, I don't know, are any issues going with that? To go with that?
Okay, so we'll ask that as a question. Do any other members of the board have any questions that they feel should be answered? Seeing none. Again, Mr. Zebrol, what is the mind of the applicant? And if you need a couple of minutes, we'll give you a couple of minutes.
Yeah, if you can just give me 2 minutes, I can
Go
discuss.
right ahead. Absolutely. So what we're going to do now is take a 3-minute recess while Mr. Zebrol bio break speaks to the applicant. They'll come back with an answer.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.
10:05. Okay, guys, let's get back on the record. Please.
All right, I think we're gonna hold off. We'll get you that additional information.
Okay. And I would have the plans for the fire subcode official, who I think is going to be one of the operative things to look at to help you out and see what that's going to do if you need to put an elevator in the building.
Okay, very good.
Okay. And so Ms. McGovern, July meeting. Ms. McGovern, you're muted. Sorry.
Jamila can confirm this, but I think we have already dedicated our June 4th regular meeting to the West Essex Highlands application. So it would have to go to the next regular meeting in July, which I believe is July 2nd, the first Wednesday. Is that correct, Jamila?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So that would be July 2nd.
Mrs. Everell, is that good for you guys?
I'm supposed to be on vacation that week, but I can make it work.
Okay.
Well, it is on Zoom.
It's by Zoom.
Yeah,
if
I
you're
can make it
local.
work.
Okay.
You just might hear kids and dogs in the background, but I'll be
Okay,
here.
not a problem. And will you send a letter to Ms. McGovern that you're agreeing to carry the application, please?
Yes, of course.
Okay. Mr.
Chairman?
Clark.
Yeah, I'm not available on the 2nd. Make sure you have a quorum and you got enough votes, all that kind of stuff.
Okay.
Okay.
Any of the members of the planning board have a problem with July 2nd? Raise your hand, please.
I'm also on vacation, but I've done that before. And the fact that it's on Zoom, we can make it work.
Okay, appreciate that. Okay.
And there's
So,
no other June meetings that we could potentially get on?
If you want a special meeting, no, June? No, not in June.
No, because we also promised West Essex Highlands, we'll try to work with them to get another special meeting. So for sure, the regular meeting is dedicated to West Essex Highlands. And so I think there's other things coming up that we're also going to have another meeting on a planning board meeting, from what I understand, in addition to West Essex Highlands, but we'll see how that comes out.
Okay, so are we agreed, Mr. Zebril?
Yes.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen of the public, I just want you to know this is an option that's available so that the planning board, the township works with the applicant and the objectors to hear comments, make sure that everybody's heard and the application is the best possible application that's finally presented before the planning board. Our goal always is to do the best for the township and the applicant. So to that end, this application will be carried to the July 2nd, 2025 regular planning board meeting. No additional notice will be required. That meeting will be via Zoom at 7:30 p.m. Okay. Thank you, sir. Okay. Next application before us is PB 25-02 Orange Prospect LLC, Block 151, Lot 17.01, Zone B2, 111 Prospect Avenue. The applicant, Orange Prospect LLC, proposes the reconstruction of the existing driveway, walkway path, and valet parking area, as well as renovations to the main building at existing restaurant and banquet facility, also known as the Manor, for the applicant, Mr. McPherson.
Good evening, members of the board. For the record, Kenneth McPherson of the law firm Gibbons PC, 1 Gateway Center, Newark, New Jersey. On behalf of the applicant, Orange Prospect LLC, as Mr. Chairman just summarized, the proposal of the reconstruction of the driveway, walking path, and valet parking area, renovations to the main building at the existing restaurant banquet facility, construction of a porticotery and a community garden are also proposed. The existing and proposed restaurant banquet facility is permitted in the B2 district. However, we are seeking a minor variance this evening for slight impervious coverage exceedance. Applicant is also seeking preliminary and final site plan approval this evening. As part of the site plan process, the applicant did submit a tree removal and replacement plan to the township forester for his approval pursuant to the ordinance. proof of compliant public notice was provided to the board secretary, establishing that adequate notice was provided in the West Orange Chronicle, April 24th, 2025, and certified mail notice was provided to all property owners entitled to such notice. The applicant and its professionals met virtually with members of the Site Plan Review Advisory Board and other township officials on April 8th, 2025, to conduct an initial informal review. We thank them for that opportunity, which was well utilized. The applicant tonight will present one witness for this application, who's familiar to the board, Mr. J. Michael Petrie, who prepared the submitted architectural and engineering plans to provide detailed testimony as the project's duly licensed architect, engineer, and professional planner. Before bringing up Mr. Petrie to be sworn, I just wanted to mention how pleased the applicant is to present this application tonight, and how they look forward to swiftly refurbishing this historic site via maintaining the same type of use at the property that has been there since New Year's Eve in 1956. Subsequent to that, the manor and the Bow and Arrow Manor had some famous visitors, including George Burns, Ronald Reagan, and Stevie Wonder, to name a few. The principals of the applicant have extensive experience in dining and catering, and they currently operate the Royal Manor in Garfield and the Bethwood Grand in Totowa. They treasure the opportunity to provide the same services to the West Orange community at this property, with the same attention to detail and service that the Knowles family provided at the manor until it closed its doors in July of 2023. In the interest of time, I won't go into it, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to thank Mr. Joseph Fagan, the township historian, who at our request did provide some historical records regarding the manor's operation at the site of the property and the Knowles family legacy. If possible, I'd like to submit a brief memorandum and attachments to the board secretary after tonight's meeting for the benefit of the public, so it could be made part of the record.
So ordered.
Thank you. So with that, Mr. Chairman, that's the introduction. I'd like to bring up now the one witness I mentioned, Mr. Petrie.
Go right ahead.
Thank you. Mr. Petrie, go ahead, Diane, I'm sorry.
That's okay. Mr. Petrie, I'm trying to find you on the screen.
I'm
Please
here.
raise your right hand. Got it. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Petrie.
Mr.
If you
McPherson.
could, I'm sorry, go ahead, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Petrie, J. Michael Petrie is well known to the planning board. He has worked in the township of West Orange for many years with our projects and as a planner, engineer, and architect. And as long as he states for the record that his licenses are up to date in the state of New Jersey, unless somebody has a question, we accept Mr. Petrie as an expert in those three fields.
Mr. Chairman, I'll state for the record that all three of my licenses are current in the state of New Jersey.
Thank you, sir. You have the floor.
Thank you. And Mr. Petrie, before you begin, Mr. Chairman, I'd just like to make the request that Mr. Petrie be allowed to make his testimony in engineering, architectural, and planning before any questions can be asked of him. I think that'd be the best way to go forward here.
Absolutely. Go right ahead.
Thank you. And Mr. Petrie, one more thing before you begin. Can you confirm that you have received and reviewed the following reports from the town: April 9, 2025, March 20th, 2025, the Nishwain Group Board Planner reports, the March 25th, 2025 Matrix New World Board Engineer report,
Yes.
and the May 5th, 2025 Pedestrian Safety Advisory Board Recommendation Memorandum?
Yes, I got that one and read it while I was sitting waiting for a plane to come back to Newark yesterday.
Excellent. Thank you, Mr. Petrie. The floor is yours.
Thank you. I've started sharing my screen. I trust that you can see what's there.
Okay.
This is information that's contained on our title sheet. We kind of combined two documents into one, just so that I can make it easier for everybody. The subject property is designated as lot 1701 in block 151. It's more commonly known as 111 Prospect Avenue in West Orange. The property as indicated by Mr. McPherson, is historically operated as the Manor, a restaurant and catering facility well known throughout the world. The parcel includes a total of 8.3 acres with 1,070 feet of frontage on Prospect Avenue and 166 feet of frontage along Woodland Avenue. It's zoned B2, and the properties immediately behind it are zoned R6. It's important to note that the Residence Inn Hotel, located immediately next door to the property to the north, contains a 124 parking space easement for the exclusive use of the restaurant and catering facility. As such, all of our notices have included that property. In terms of historical approvals, and I'm just going to move to the existing conditions plan, which is sheet SB2 in your package. I've been fortunate enough to have been working for the Knowles family on this and other properties since 1985. During that time, I've prepared all of the site plans for both the restaurant and catering facility as well as the hotel. I was part of the 1993 application approved by the board that split this into two separate sites, one for the manor and the other for the hotel. When the two-phased renovation was planned and ultimately completed, I was instrumental in developing both the concepts and the final plans, and ultimately working with Harry Knowles, his two sons, and his two grandchildren on the build-out of those improvements. The first phase was approved by the TRC in 2012, and the last board approval was in 2013. That included the rooftop addition and a phase that has not been implemented yet, which was the conversion of the carriage house to a bar for a la carte dining. All of the more current approvals reference the 1996 Planning Board approval, which limits the occupancy of the restaurant and banquet facility to 1,404 people, with a total of 434 parking spaces, of which 124 are part of that easement that I mentioned earlier. Sorry. The proposal that's before you this evening makes some minor architectural changes to the building. For those of you who are familiar with the building, there is no porte cochere. Now, the porte cochere is that roof area that you can drive under to get out of your car without getting wet. It's been one of my complaints about the building for a number of years, but it's been a difficult problem to solve. We've incorporated it here by changing both the driveway and the fountain that's out front, eliminating that so that we could have the ability to create this area. The second change to the building is the area that faces the fountains and the garden in the front. And that area currently has, if you look at the upper part of the screen, it currently has a greenhouse style curved glass facade there. And what we're going to do is we're going to take that out and we're going to put in new doors and glass that will exit onto that same patio and fountain area. So there are no real true additions here, although the porte cochere counts as an addition per se, but it's simply a porte cochere and a windbreak at the existing columns. So it's not enclosed building. From a site perspective, we're doing several important things, and I'm going to start with what's labeled as SP3 in your set. And this is the overall site plan. One of the most important things that we're doing, in my opinion, is reconfiguring the exit driveway. This is something that's been on my list of to-do for as long as I've been working here. The existing driveway, for those of you who have exited that driveway, it's very steep as it reaches Prospect Avenue, and it's very difficult to see. What we're doing is we're pushing the driveway about 25 feet to the north at its exit point so we can straighten it out, take out the curve, move it away from the garden walls, and fill the upper reach of that driveway in. We can't do it where it is today because that would put pressure on the walls that they can't take. So instead, we move it to the north. We regrade that driveway and we improve the ability for exiting vehicles to see. For those of you who have gone in and out of the driveway that services the hotel, we're following the exact same grading pattern as we did there. And it will result in a driver's eye that's closer to the elevation of Prospect Avenue, which is going to create a safer exiting movement. I've been to this facility more times than I can count, both as a patron and for meetings, and I can tell you that exiting that driveway is still one of the scariest driveways that I get to use on a regular basis. When you look at the impact as we move that slightly northerly, we also chose to reconfigure this front parking lot. The front parking lot is probably the most important lot in the facility because on a day-to-day basis, this is the parking that everybody uses. So if you're coming to plan an event, if you're coming for meetings at the facility, if you're coming for a small get-together at the facility, this front parking lot will be the parking lot that everybody uses. On evenings when the facility is booked for larger events, that's when they'll have valet parking. And the valet will take over this lot, but for the ADA parking. Again, we're on the side of a hill, so ADA is important because it needs what's called an accessible route. So you have to be able to get from the cars to the front doors. We've developed a half a dozen ADA spaces with a direct accessible route to the path that gets you to the front door of this facility, and they are the closest spaces to it. We've also done two things that I think are pretty cool. First of all, we've increased the parking on the property by this reconfiguration, but we've simultaneously decreased the impervious coverage on this property by about 5,000 square feet. So we've not only added ADA parking spaces with a defined accessible route, we've added EV parking spaces, a half a dozen of those as well, and we've brought the total parking on site to 471 spaces when you consider our EV credits. And as I mentioned, we've done this while simultaneously reducing impervious coverage by 5,000 square feet. A quick look at the grading and how we accomplished this with the driveway. This is sheet SP 6.1 in your set. We've regraded the driveway to provide an area that's relatively flat, less than 5% for the first 25 feet of the driveway. That driveway gets a little steeper going down, but now it's going to be a constant grade. We've added drainage improvements on that driveway, and we've reconfigured this whole parking lot and incorporated drainage improvements there too. So ultimately, we've connected this storm sewer system through parking lot C to the existing drainage facility that's there. And what's important to note about this is an improvement that can only be made while the facility is closed. And that's what we've worked through. So this whole front parking lot can be done now while the facility is closed. It can't be done while this is open because this driveway is going to take weeks to do. We've taken the time to develop new lighting for this front parking lot as well. So all of the driveways and the parking area will be lit by 15-foot light poles. These are lantern type fixtures that are dark sky compliant, so they don't have glare that goes up in the air. The walkways, the pedestrian areas, and the plaza area outside of the fountain are lit with 12-foot high light poles. And that front area is something that's important to the application as well. If I just go in, this is the area that you come out of out of that existing room in the front of the building with the glass that overlooks the fountains, and you walk downstairs today to get out, there's about five risers to get down to the patio level. Our intention is to fill that area in and to raise that up so that this area outside can be ADA accessible and enjoyed by all patrons, not just those who are physically capable of walking downstairs. That's going to cause us to have to reconstruct this front fountain and raise this up a bit so that it's above the patio area, but that's included in the plans as well. Basically, we're bringing in a little over 3 feet of fill in this area to raise this up. And again, all new drainage through this area that connects out to that parking lot drainage. And then finally, we have our tree replacement plan. And this is TR2 in the set that was submitted. As part of the previous submittals made to the township, we're seeking the board's approval of our landscape plan, which includes some tree work that's already been completed, as well as tree work that will be finalized as the front parking lot is completed. So the portion of the plan that's been completed is outlined here in red. Areas A, B, and C along the driveways. The trees there have been planted and are being maintained. Actually, some of them needed to be replaced. There was some tree removal performed before a permit was sought. Basically, they were attempting to replace in kind. They weren't aware of the ordinance. And they have gone through the process through the courts, and there's a settlement in place. And what that settlement requires is ultimately the board's approval. The additional areas, again, as we install the parking in the front in that lot, we've implemented additional evergreens at that location. We will complete the evergreens along the exit driveway mixed in with the red maples, and then we have red maples and evergreens that will be placed along the front. The final piece of the puzzle in this application is a community garden, and that's located right behind and adjacent to the carriage house that's on the property. The carriage house currently has a greenhouse, and what we're planning on doing is developing this garden that will be overseen by the chef and his staff, likely a gardener, and it will be developed to service the restaurant and banquet use, but will also be available for community groups for them to, on a first come, first served basis, for them to utilize this garden and not only that, but learn from this garden. I was fortunate enough on my recent trip to visit a very similar facility at the JW Marriott in Orlando. Absolutely fascinating what they're doing there and growing so many of the things that they're using in their restaurants. There are several nonconformities that are not being affected by this application. They include setback violations on the south side of the existing building, accessory use setbacks for the pavement in that area as well, accessory use front setback for the parking that is within the employee parking lot, accessory use side setback for the parking lot as it abuts the hotel parking lot. We're required to have a separation there. And the buffer to the residential zone, again, on the south side of the building and the portion of the employee parking lot that's closest to the building. Finally, while we have improved the impervious coverage, we're still at 60.53%, where 60 is permitted. We call this out as a variance because we are over, but as I indicated, we are making this better by about 5,000 square feet. We're reducing the coverage from the existing condition, which is 60, I'm sorry, I'm just stealing a peek at the plan, 61.75. We're dropping it to 60.53. We're over by about 1,900 square feet. And I've promised everybody that I will work on that when we do Lot C. My hope will be to get closer. Yeah. So we call this out as a variance, despite the fact that it's an existing nonconformity. But in my opinion, there's a direct public benefit. Obviously, we are adding 5,000 square feet of green space, and we are simultaneously reducing stormwater runoff. That's a direct benefit to the public. I don't see a substantial detriment associated with this granting of the variance, because in essence, we will be improving the condition, and therefore I believe that it meets the C2 criteria. Finally, while we are increasing the previously approved parking, which was 434 spaces, to a total of 471 spaces when we include our EV credits, we would like to request that the board consider increasing that occupancy by 111 people. And the 111 is based upon the difference between 471 and 434. So that's the previously approved parking and the current proposal for parking. And that difference is 37 parking spaces. Your ordinance requires 1 space for every 3 seats. So if we multiplied that by 3, we'd have an increase of 111 for a total of 1,515. Should the board grant that? I think it's a reasonable request given what we're doing and where we're going with the parking increase. So that's really what we're here looking for this evening. I can answer questions and go into any further detail that you might need.
Thank you, Mr. Petrie. Just very quickly, if you could just jump into the addressing the memorandum from the Pedestrian Safety Advisory Board.
Yes. So the advisory committee asked us to look at implementing a sidewalk along Prospect Avenue. Historically, that has been tricky at the fountain, and it's been tricky at the employee parking lot. They raised a good point, and that is that we have a reservation that perhaps we could incorporate the sidewalk within the employee parking lot on the tree side of that lot, and I looked at it, and I think we can do that because we have a fairly wide drive aisle. We do get to a pinch point in front of the fountains, because those fountains are up to the property line. The walls actually go over a bit, and there are evergreens there. So we would have to do something relatively creative at this location in order to accommodate that.
The county would have to be involved in that.
Yeah, the county would. Well, the county generally accepts sidewalks if the municipality requires it, and I mean we can get there.
Right.
My concern is what happens right here in front of these fountains, because we do have drop off and we do have evergreens. If we eliminate the evergreens, can we work something in here and here to replace them? Yes, I think we can try to work with this committee to get that sidewalk in. It doesn't connect to much of anything.
Right. Yeah, as far as sidewalk connection on that street, Mr. Petrie, are you aware of how much sidewalk connectivity there is? I know part of the idea is to make more connectivity, but just from your observation.
Well, again, to the north of us is the hotel. There's not sidewalks along that frontage, and to the north of that is the Montclair Golf Club, and there's no sidewalks along that frontage. There are sidewalks on Woodland Avenue, and I believe that there are sidewalks in front of the residential development there up to a point. Our project at West Orange Plaza, the hopefully soon to be Target Shopping Center, is has sidewalks incorporated there that come down and connect to those residential sidewalks. So if we were to be able to get it along the frontage of this property, you could walk from basically from the hotel to the shopping center if one were staying there long term. So I understand their desire to do this. I think some of the improvements that have been made recently on Prospect Avenue might help us do that. So the remaining comments seem to talk about parking and discussing access to the building from the parking lots and what's better to have as self-parking, what's better to have as valet. And this property has always had self-parking signed literally at just before you get to this driveway, and it says self-parking to the right, valet parking straight. I would add to that, accessible parking straight to the valet straight, because you need to be able to get to these spaces. But I think having self-parking in this area, and there's the sidewalk that connects up to the hotel site here, because I designed it. This area is all parking that's available for for use by this facility. So I think that's not an unreasonable ask, and it's got a pedestrian route there. The majority of people on a facility like this are going to use valet. We're seeing more and more and more opportunities showing people using Uber and Lyft and things such as that. So I think you're going to see a lot more drop off. And I think that's inevitable, because I think that's where society's going at this point. So I appreciate the comments that the self-parking would be better, would be closer to the door and easier for people if it's in Lot C. It's at this facility, it's never been that way, but for the day-to-day operations, the Monday to Friday operations during the day, this is going to be the only parking lot used other than the employee parking lot. So
Right. And if most people for this type of use now, to your understanding, Mr. Petrie, do valet, obviously people would want their car when they're leaving to be ideally in the nearest lot so that it can be gotten to them sooner.
Well, look, when you're dealing with valet at a facility like this at the end of the night, yes, people want their car quickly, and the quickest way is for the valets to have the shortest run. The shortest run. The longer to run, the longer it's going to take to get your car, and that's not what people want or expect. So, will they use it in the the longest runs in the busiest parties? Yes, guaranteed, but they'll probably also have bigger staff at those parties.
Right. Thank you, Mr. Petrie. Mr. Chairman, I have no further questions for Mr. Petrie at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Petrie, for your presentation. And you're exactly right. The goal of the planning board would be with the pedestrian safety committee to have a sidewalk go from the hotel all the way down to the Target Shopping Center. That would make the most sense. It'll also provide greater safety for your employees walking along Prospect Avenue, especially in the evening. There's a well-delineated sidewalk for them to walk on. Having said that, again, thank you for your presentation, and we'll have questions from the board. Vice Chairman Garina, do you have any questions for Mr. Petrie on his testimony?
Absolutely. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd just like to make a comment if I can. It's not actually a question, it's just an observation to Mr. Petrie and the applicant. Thank you for seriously taking into consideration the requirements of the Pedestrian Safety Advisory Board, particularly because our master plan is incorporated with complete streets and green streets. and all greenscapes. So what we try to do, and the county has been very supportive, and we want to put sidewalks in along their properties and right of ways, is to make West Orange walkable. And what you're doing is what we got accomplished with Target and the shopping plaza in Target, coming all the way down to when you do your project. And we did get Montclair Country Club to do some sidewalks, but doing what you're doing for pedestrian safety is going to make your facility more attractive to the community, walkable to the community. And believe it or not, people may, if whatever your facility is open for, walk-in dining or free premier dining, people will walk to your facility. So just my observation, I just want to thank you on behalf of the board, you know, for taking the seriousness in to this, you know, pedestrian safety. Can I make a comment about the landscaping, or is that for another time?
Not now, not now.
Okay, thank you,
Thank
Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor McCartney. Do you have any questions for Mr. Petrie on his testimony?
Oh, no, not a question, more comment also. Mike, I want to say thank you for the investment that we're seeing here in town. When I first got elected, I met with the Knowles family when they had decided that they were going to close up shop. There were actually tears from some of the members of the board because they were proposing a hotel at that time. And the only thing that they were going to be able to preserve from the building was the dome. And, you know, they couldn't do it. So I'm pleased to see the work that's being done here. I do appreciate the fact that you acknowledge the tree removal and replacement plan. I appreciate that. We do have a core group of master gardeners, Essex County master gardeners, if they do want to help the chef with that community garden. And I do understand that at Pleasantdale Chateau, they do the same thing, garden to table. I think there's 33 acres up there. They have a tenant farmer that prepares the vegetables for the restaurant.
Yes, and they were always used at this facility as well.
Right, yep. And I appreciate the consideration for the sidewalks to meet up with the West Orange Plaza.
That's our goal.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you. Councilperson Scarpa, do you have any questions for Mr. Petrie on his testimony? Councilperson Scarpa, do you have any questions for Mr. Petrie on his testimony?
Yes, just real quickly. I want to thank you again for the investment. We're also thrilled to see all the work that's being done here. I just want to make sure, I'm sure you know we have a new stormwater management ordinance. I'm sure everything that you're doing is in compliance with that, and I'm glad that you're
You want to mute again? Okay.
Oh, you got it? Okay. You said you're doing various drainage improvements in the parking lot. Could you just briefly talk about what those are?
Certainly. Historically, the drainage for this parking lot has run into the area immediately outside the door. It's been difficult because, you know, as it ponds at the door, it risks going into the building. And we literally designed the building to raise the floor a little bit and then drop it back down inside so that that wouldn't happen. But what we're doing is we can reconfigure this driveway and rebuild this area. We've actually directed the drainage to a low spot that's between the main building and the carriage house, so that in the event that there's ponding, it can literally go over the curb and through into the garden area directly.
Interesting.
All of the improvements that we're showing here incorporate additional collection systems. A lot of the pipes the owner has had all of the storm lines scoped and cleaned and scoped so that we could see where our problems are, and we're doing upgrades to that system so that this can be taken care of. We want to do all of this work in front of this building one time and get this open so that we can know that it's done and it's good for the next 50 years. I think it was open 70
Yeah,
years.
I'm very glad to hear that. Thank you.
We're excited about it. I mean, we're putting a lot of money into it, and we're very excited. I know that my client is extremely excited about this project.
Great. I can't wait to see the garden.
Mr. Alpert, do you have any questions for Mr. Petrie on his testimony?
I do not. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Wilks, do you have any questions for Mr. Petrie on his testimony?
No questions.
Thank you. Mr. Klein, do you have any questions for Mr. Petrie on his testimony?
Yeah, so are we gonna see a revised plan with the sidewalk across the frontage?
We can certainly incorporate that and submit it to whoever it needs to go to. I mean, we're going to have to do some work to do that, but you know, this was May 5th. Today's May 7th. Lee, I'll be honest with you, I didn't do it today.
Oh, no, it's fine. No, I understand. I just wanted to make sure that's either gonna be a condition of approval or you're gonna get
I would absolutely accept this memorandum, you know, that specific point of this memorandum as a condition of approval.
Sure.
I know there's going to be some conditions from both the engineering and planning reports. They both had some really good comments, and we've actually started addressing those comments already since the TRC meeting. But what I didn't want to do is drop new plans, you know, in the planning department's lap 10 days before the meeting, because I didn't think that was fair.
Can you talk a little bit about, first of all, is it an option for it to be 100% valet for an event? Or do you always have to have the option of people to self-park?
I think you always have to give people the option to self-park. There are people who are very antsy.
That's fine. No, that's fine. So my follow-up to that is, can you talk a little bit about the interaction between pedestrians that are gonna have to now scoot through the parking lot, and if there is overflow valet and the valets are driving in and out? It just seems like, whatever, how you allocate it is one thing, but can you talk a little bit about how somebody that's gonna park, what is it again? That's lot D or C, the one at the one that's at the top? That's D, and C is the valet.
Yeah. Sorry, I have the letters. This is the landscape.
That's different. Okay,
that's I thought. The overall plan. I just have to.
Yeah, no problem.
A couple of pages.
So if I'm parking in the self-parking lot C, I'm
Right.
interacting with now somebody who's dropped off their car, and the valet guy is in a rush to get the car parked, and vice versa. So I'm just a little concerned with the pedestrian safety. Is there a better way to get the pedestrians from the building to their parked car?
I'm sorry to talk. For me, the best parking spaces are in here for self-parking, because there's a walkway here that brings you right down. There's a designated crosswalk, and it brings you right to the front door. So, you know, I would not anticipate a ton of people self-parking, but I would think that, you know, the spaces that are literally right here and, you know, right at the edge of the hotel site here, those are spaces that could easily, in fact, just let me go back one more. This is the overall site. Nope, sorry, that didn't help me. Yeah, there's the overflow parking, the 124 spaces is in here and the next line up. So I think a lot of these spaces make the most sense for self-parkers. And look, you've also got to anticipate that, you know, when we did the hotel, you know, we said you're going to have crossover traffic. There's going to be people who are parking at the hotel to come to the, you know, because they're staying at the hotel to come to a facility because they don't want to drive home when it's over. So that's why this whole walkway system was put in from the beginning. So it makes sense to have the self-parking along paralleling that walkway, and we can find it that way if you want us to.
So they can walk from the parking space right directly to the walkway, or they have to either walk in the drive aisle and then get into the crosswalk? I have to see what it looks like.
Yeah, there's actually access.
So if you say you parked in the middle of that row, how would you get to the building?
You would either cut through.
You can cut. Okay, that's it. Yeah.
The walkway's here, so it actually goes all the way up to the hotel. But
right. But it seems like you got to walk to the crosswalk to get into the beginning of it, and that's where you're crossing to get to the building. All right, and then the 6 ADA spots, that's going to be self-park ADA spots.
So those are self-park ADA spaces. They have direct access across and to the front door. And
I think Mr. Scott, if he doesn't go through his, there's a comment about how you calculated 6.
Yeah, again, we looked at it as we're touching this lot, we got to make this lot compliant. We anticipate coming back to this board and touching this lot when we do the carriage house. Ultimately, We love the idea of the carriage house as the bar to, you know, and they were gonna connect it in, but we'll probably look to convert this to the à la carte dining. And when we do that, we're going to need to redo this parking lot. We're going to have ADA parking for that. We're going to have ADA parking to get to the garden, the public garden, because we're going to have to do that. So when we touch this lot, we anticipate doing more ADA and more EV parking spaces as well.
So you're going to be able to work on lot C while the catering facility is up and running?
Yes, because we'll be able to, this isn't going to change. This drive aisle isn't going to change. It can still get us all back to here to the hotel parking. And this lot won't end up being overly difficult to do. We're going to have to pick and choose, obviously, but we can pick and choose before we open this. And obviously that means we have to come back to this board to do that.
Sure.
We know that.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you. Mr. Morgan, do you have any questions for Mr. Petrie on his testimony? Mr. Cardoza, do you have any questions for Mr. Petrie on his testimony?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Petrie, for your presentation and Mr. McPherson for your lead-in. I have some questions regarding the parking lots.
Okay.
Just to clarify, Mr. Petrie, the striping all throughout, this is all new layouts throughout the lots, or?
The only lot that's new, Mr. Cardoza, is this lot in the front. That's a completely different configuration than what's there today. Everything else is what you're looking at today.
Oh, well, okay, because I'm looking at lot A, and so lot A is the employee parking, correct?
It is correct.
Okay, and the turning into, I believe we can make off of Prospect both a left hand and a right hand turn into this lot?
Yes.
Okay, and there's no issue with the little kind of island of what is this? 1, 2, 3, is that 7 spaces?
These spaces here?
Yeah, no.
There's an existing drive aisle here that's 24 feet wide, and there's space here to exit as well. So that's not an issue.
Okay. The little lane going up from that drive aisle, where does that lead to? Is that for traffic?
There's actually an easement across the back of these properties because there's actually a driveway that goes back as a service driveway. And that's why both of these homes were included these were both owned by members of the Knowles family. I think in the end, Kerry owned both of these. Kerry's Harry's granddaughter. And so they created an easement across the back of them. I think the owner even bought one of them. I'm not positive of that. But there's a driveway that's historically encroached on those properties, and that's why they bought them. So
this driveway, is that the current or planned main source of deliveries, or?
Yes, it will remain the approach for deliveries. Yes.
Okay. For the main, what would I say? The main driveway here. The island in the center, is that new? The green island in
this?
Yeah.
Right now, there's a circular fountain there. We're taking that fountain out, and we're putting a new fountain in here. But yes, that island is there to create a landing spot for our porte-cochere, because this is the outline of the porte-cochere. I'm tracing it here. So the cars can pull under, and we can have a series of probably 6 or 7 cars underneath the porte-cochere unloading at a time.
Have you done the turning angles for large vehicles, emergency vehicles?
Yes, we actually have a turning plan included in our set that has the fire truck coming through this area and out. It's kind of why there's some, large radii through here so that we can get the fire truck through there.
Terrific. Yeah, I want to take a look at that. Thank you. So I think I've heard 2 different things. Maybe you can square the circle for me on the carriage house. I heard bar and a la carte dining, and then I heard one or the other?
Okay, so in 2013, the request was made to create a drop-off lane right here and to convert this into a bar. It was going to be the phase that was done after the roof enclosure, the roof building enclosure that was here. It was part of that same 2013 site plan. It's never been done. So the intention in this owner's intention is to look at this to perhaps do the a la carte dining in this building rather than in the main building, so that you can keep it separate, and you don't have to, on a Tuesday night, you don't have to open up this big building for dinner. You can have it in here.
Does it already have an existing kitchen separate from the main building?
It doesn't, and the original intention was to create a connection. I don't know that that's something that's planned. I think they would operate this in its own kitchen.
Okay.
If they were to do that.
Okay. And I just want to clarify the distinction between the greenhouse and the garden here. If you could, move the mouse to the cursor and explain what's what.
So this is the existing greenhouse. It's actually attached to this accessory building.
Okay.
So this carriage house has a greenhouse. It's this pink area in here. And basically there's an existing walk. Actually, it has stairs that we're taking out that goes back to the ceremony area. This is the ceremony area, the pavilion that they have the ceremonies under. This is the walkway for the brides. And there's a ramp that comes up from the parking lot into here as well for service vehicles. Again, there's a fountain, there's walkways around the fountain that all connect. So our intention was to come off of those walkways at two locations, here and here, to come into the garden.
Okay.
And do I have the garden in this? Hold on. Let me take a sec so I could blow that up if I can for you.
Sure. Before you get there, because you can end on the garden. Quick question about Lot A again. When employees park, where do they walk to enter the building?
The employees come in the rear of the building. There's an employee entrance back in the rear of the building. It goes to where their locker rooms are.
So they walk along that service drive?
Correct.
Okay. I'm just wondering, with the service drive, late at night events, I don't know, deliveries, what's there regarding visibility or signage? Or
well, the deliveries are they're usually done off hours, but employees are there for the deliveries, so there's probably vehicles in this lot. In terms of access, this is
is there lighting by that door or anything?
There's building mounted lighting here, yes, that lights up this whole area.
Gotcha. All right. Yeah. No. So yeah, the garden. So I know you were going to pull up a little bit more about the garden. If you could just explain the intents here, because I heard public garden, so which made me think, individual visitors during certain hours it would operate kind of as a separate accessory use. And then I heard for public groups, making me think specifically you would have, tell groups to come in and get a plot or something. I don't know. You mentioned that you saw another facility operate.
Yeah. Okay. I just need to stop my share because I need to open up a different file to get that out. So give me half a second and I'll see what I can do here. Close that. I need to open this. Here. That. Share that. It only took 5 years, but I'm getting better at this now.
All things in due time.
You can teach an old dog new tricks. Okay, So again, there are walkways that come across the front of the building now. We're going to be replacing those walkways. As I said, this is the walkway that comes in. There's stairs in it today that we're taking out. And I'm creating an entrance into the garden here off of this existing path and here off of this existing path. So inside the garden will be a fenced in area. That fence attaches back to the building. It will center on the greenhouse. And then there's going to be these, I guess these are like, they're like planter bins that will be located along the perimeters and then butting up against the building, and they have circulation paths around them. So that's what you're looking at here. So these planter bins will be separated. There'll be shade-loving herbs and vegetables in this area. There'll be sun-loving herbs and vegetables in this area. And then there'll be ground planting beds for some of the bigger vegetables that are grown there. So this area, these ground planting area here will likely be used by the restaurant and banquet facility only. And then there's going to be a delineation where people or groups can sign up and have either bins designated to them or to their group. And
right. On an annual basis via application. Mr. Cardoza, the mayor mentioned some good groups who would be interested. Mainly the intent is for community and educational organizations to reserve a planting bed. That would be the best use, I think, and that's what the applicant's idea is in order to integrate itself to the community. So,
and they'll obviously have the assistance of the staff there, in providing some guidance to them. So it'll be educational as well as, useful, and for some of us medicinal, because we are what we eat.
Well said.
Mike, do you have fencing around that? Oh, sorry, John.
Thank you, Mr. Cardoza. I'm going to go to Ms. Capra.
Yep, all done. Thank you both.
Ms. Capra, do you have any questions for Mr. Petrie on his testimony?
Yes, I do. Yes. Thank you, Chairman, and thank you, Mr. Petrie, for your presentation. Also, thank you for being willing to provide the sidewalk along Prospect Avenue. I think, as others have shared, that will be an improvement that's appreciated by residents and others who are staying in the area. One question regarding the accessible route and the ADA spots. Can you share how you calculated the number of spaces, the handicap spaces?
Yes, we did it based solely on the parking spaces in that lot B that we're touching.
Okay. I'm just wondering, do you have enough ADA spots then for the site?
The answer is when we're finished, we'll have more than there are today. So we'll be improving and making that lot that we're touching compliant. And as we touch lot C, we're going to be able to do the same thing. So we don't have handicap parking spaces in the visitor lot because, quite frankly, there's not an accessible route from any of those spaces to the employee entrance.
And then, so you said, so as you touch other lots, you will be providing additional handicap parking. Is that right?
Yes, I'm sorry, I'm back to sharing this overall plan because I think it's the most important one to talk from. When we touch lot C, I expect that we'll be providing ADA parking for the use that is here, whatever that use may be, if it's bar or if it's restaurant, or bar and restaurant, and we'll be providing ADA spaces to access the garden for those who are visiting for that purpose. So we expect to do both ADA in both locations for those entrances.
And I
And
apologize.
EV as well.
Okay, yeah, great. Yeah, 'cause that was actually one of my other questions was how you were calculating EV spaces, but I imagine it's a similar concept that you're kind of doing it by lot
Yes.
as you improve. And can you share again, when, if you have a time frame for lot C?
I would have loved to have brought the whole thing to the board at one time. But from a practical perspective, we didn't have time to design this building and design this parking lot, in a reasonable time frame to get this open. I mean, we're hemorrhaging money. We bought the place and we can't function as it is. So we need to get this open, and that's why we're doing this piece first and the interiors first.
Okay. And one more question is about drainage. It sounded like, based on what you shared before, that generally drainage patterns are remaining the same as what they are currently.
Yes.
Just want to confirm that, drainage, I guess particularly to the west, that it's not increasing at any point. I mean, even, thinking about that overflow that you mentioned, understanding that those properties sit kind of down gradient, there won't be additional like point source discharges or anything like that.
Yeah, well, okay. So a couple of things. As I indicated, we're decreasing impervious by 5,000 square feet. So we're going to be reducing the overall volume of water that runs off of this site. We are putting in new collection systems because some of those older pipes, over the years have just failed from whether it's, lack of maintenance or just old age. I think I'll mention Mr. Scott's letter, and he made some pretty good comments. He said, I understand that this is ultimately tributary to a system that's on the hotel property and then goes through an easement down to Deerfield. But, he believes that the maintenance of that system needs to be incorporated into our maintenance manual. And I didn't think of that. And that's a really good comment, because ultimately the swale that carries all of this, that carries the drainage from the back of the site, connects to the system, and this piping system, ultimately including the detention system from the hotel, goes back through that same system and out to Deerfield. And he asked us, first of all, to confirm that the system going out to Deerfield had capacity to handle the storm, and we checked that, and it does. And he said that we should incorporate the rest of that system into our maintenance manual. And I think that's a really good point. Even though it's off our site, we have a responsibility to maintain that, to ensure that our site continues to drain properly in conjunction with the hotel site draining properly. So good points.
I think that's great. And I would agree. Yeah. Because if that's not functioning, then like you said, it hurts your property too. So.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It was a great point. I appreciate the comment.
That's all that I had for questions. Thank you so much.
Great. Councilperson Scarpa, are you raising your hand again?
Yes, I just wanted to ask Mr. Petrie if he's taken a look at our new stormwater management ordinance, because we do deal with maintenance in there.
Yeah.
The one that you recommended tonight?
Yeah, they're not, that doesn't apply yet because the council hasn't adopted that, Councilperson Scarpa.
I haven't looked at it because I don't know, I haven't seen the public document for it yet. But at the end of the day, even your current ordinance requires that we prepare a stormwater maintenance plan. And we did that and submitted it. And that's what I was just commenting on a second ago.
Right.
Because in the letter from Matrix, the recommendation is that we expand, Mr. Scott's recommendation is that we expand our maintenance to include the off-site system all the way down to the public system. And I didn't think of that, honestly, and I think it's a great comment, and we're going to
Right.
do that in our next submittal.
Right. Yeah, no, I believe we've passed it, so you might want to take a look.
First reading.
Okay, I'm not gonna even go there. Do any members, I'm sorry, Mr. Hazel, do you have any questions for Mr. Petrie on his testimony?
Not at this time.
Thank you. Mr. Scott, do you have any questions for Mr. Petrie on his testimony?
Not really any questions, just comment. I'd just like to say, Mr. Petrie, thank you for addressing a lot of the comments from the board. Some of those questions were ones that I would have had for myself. I know that you did review my review letter, and I just want to know, you know, as part of the conditions of approval, if the board so chooses to approve, will you basically provide revised drawings and a letter answering each of the points from my letter?
Absolutely.
Okay, I would say that I don't have anything further.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Scott. Do any members of the public have any questions for Mr. Petrie on his testimony? Please raise your hand and be identified. Do any member of the public have any questions for Mr. Petrie on his testimony? Please raise your hand and be identified.
Yes, we have Joyce Rudin. Please state your name and address for the record.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Joyce Rudin, Woodland Avenue. Mr. Petrie, I have a couple of questions for you. You referenced the court settlement in regard to the 250 trees that were illegally taken down by—
Ms. Rudin, excuse me, Councilperson Rudin. Any settlement agreement is outside of the purview of the planning board. And as you know, Chapter 25 does not have trees in it. It's under the purview of the town forester. So everything will be a condition of the town forester reviewing it, and the planning board was not participant in any court settlement. So you can ask a question, but I want to stop that information from getting on our meeting.
How do we know what the replanting schedule is and where the
That will be,
trees
again, that's a
planted?
great question. The replanting schedule is taken out of Chapter 25, and it's a purview of the town forester. So the applicant will provide the town forester with a replanting schedule. The town forester will review that. Is that correct, Ms. McGovern?
I know that they did submit I did get a copy of the submission that they did already send over to the township forester. So yes, the township forester governs this.
But shouldn't that be available to the public?
It's in the set that we submitted.
It's
Okay.
absolutely available to the public.
Can you go back to the map, please? The parking lot A, the workers' parking lot, a lot of those trees that were replanted are now dead.
Yes.
Do you have any plans to address that?
Yes,
Additionally, along the side and closer to the building, all of those plants that were planted, the trees that were planted, they're completely a monoculture. There's no diversity in the planting. They are also dead. And additionally, in the back of the parking lot, many trees were cut down or just simply chopped, and the logs were left in the back along with trash. How will you be dealing with that?
The tree removal and replacement plan was submitted not only as part of the program to the town forester, and it was reviewed, and he actually approved the plant. That we got approval to replant areas A, B, C, and D as shown on this plan here. The remaining areas are what still need to be planted around this parking lot that we're reconstructing. I know that we lost a number of trees, and we lost a number of trees because, quite frankly, it took us quite a bit of time to get the town to review and address the submittal that we made and get them to approve our ability to put the trees in, because the trees were already on the site. We had trees that literally sat on the site for almost 2 months before they were able to be put in the ground. And because of that, because of the stress on those trees, we lost more than you would normally lose. But I can tell you that the replacement trees to swap them out with have already been ordered. And we're just waiting for them to arrive because now it's time that we can plant again.
Okay,
It's-
on the property that the manor owns around going down Woodland Avenue, that property is not being properly maintained. It is filled with litter. The woods are poorly maintained. Is there any plan to address that area?
We don't include any information on, there's no tree replacement proposed there, and I don't have any information on the maintenance of that area. We normally won't include maintenance of areas like that on our plans, but that is natural wooded area from my recollection of being on the site and walking that parking lot.
Are you extending the parking lot in any way in, I think it's Area C, is the parking lot enlarged in any way?
Okay, so the employee parking lot, which is the parking lot to the south of the building, on that little handle that goes down to Woodland Avenue, there is no plan to expand that parking lot at all. Now, I may need to reconfigure the striping a little bit along the Prospect Avenue corridor in order to get a sidewalk in there, but that would just be replacing pavement with curb and sidewalk and pinching the drive aisle, which is extensive right now.
Are you familiar with the planting that is required inside parking lots for
Yes.
trees? There seem to be no islands in any of the parking lots that you've created. Can you
That's-
create them?
That's not true.
Can you show me where they are, where the
Yeah.
parking islands are?
Certainly. We have
I mean,
islands.
where the tree islands are within the parking lot.
Right, so here's the parking lot that we're touching, and here are the islands within that parking
I
lot.
don't think
can't
you're
see.
sharing.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No worries.
Dun, 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 dun. Okay, back to here. Share. Okay, so we're reconstructing this parking lot and we're creating planting islands within this parking lot. That's what we're doing.
Are you aware that the planting islands are supposed to provide at least 50% shade
Yes,
according to our tree ordinance?
yes.
Would you say that that is providing 50% shade? It looks pretty small.
Well,
Mr. Petrie, was this approved by the town forester? You're planting?
It's
this,
It's
yes,
still under
this-
consideration, right, Mr. Petrie?
Okay.
It's been submitted.
So I believe that
It's up
that
to the
question
forester.
Is best addressed by the forester.
Correct.
After the trees were illegally taken down last year, the neighbors came out and they spoke out about flooding that is happening behind your property. Are you aware of that?
I saw the news article, yes.
Okay, onto the residential area.
Yeah, I saw the news article, yes.
And much of what they said is that they are now flooding so much because so many trees came down. Is there anything that you will be doing to protect the residential neighborhood right behind your property?
Yes, as I indicated in my testimony, we're eliminating 5,000 square feet of impervious surface on the site and replacing it with green area. So yes, we are reducing overall runoff from this site.
Will the green area include trees?
Yes.
How many trees in the green area that you're replacing it? Will it be enough to stop the runoff that is happening to the neighborhood right behind your property?
Okay. So I understand what people say on television, and I also understand nature and gravity. And there is a berm behind the parking lot that has 15-foot high, 20-foot high evergreens on top of that berm. And that berm was installed probably 30 years ago by the Knowles family so that water wouldn't run down the hill from the parking lots. It can't get over the top of the berm. It would be 6 feet deep in the parking lot before it got over the top of the berm. So
May I ask if you would be willing to meet with the residents who spoke out because of the flooding in their area?
Councilperson Rudin, this is outside the scope of the planning board right now. So the expert said that there's no flooding. This is, anything could be done afterwards. Contact their attorney, and I recommend that's going to be the best way to handle this.
Councilwoman, you're more than welcome to contact, and I'll speak with, and Mike and I will speak with the client, and obviously our client wants to do whatever he can to be the best neighbor possible. That's 100% his intent going forward.
Thank you, Mr. McPherson. I'll have the neighbors contact you. Thank you
Okay.
so much.
Very
Okay.
good.
Good night.
Thank you. Do any other members of the public have any questions for Mr. Petrie? Please raise your hand and be identified.
I'm not seeing any.
Seeing none, we're going to close that portion of the meeting. Do any members of the public have any comments about this application for the planning board? Please raise your hand and be identified.
I'm not seeing any.
Seeing none, thank you, and close that portion of the meeting. Okay. Ms. McGovern, I'm sorry, Councilperson Scarpa has a question.
Yeah, I just had a question about the storm. I want to make sure that we're adhering to the stormwater ordinance. We did pass it. It wasn't just first.
Councilperson Scarpa, it came to the planning, but you passed it on first reading.
Right.
It came to the planning board. We just reviewed it this evening. The council has to get a letter from the planning board, and they have to adopt it as a resolution. Till it's adopted, this application was in motion before the stormwater ordinance was reviewed or passed. So this applicant is doing everything they can to apply to the stormwater management ordinance that was in place at the time the application was first presented to the planning
And which
board.
was recently updated
Yeah.
to begin with.
Okay, yeah, it was recently updated.
Right. The state made every town update it, Councilwoman.
Yeah, but we put even more
I saw that. I
teeth
saw that.
in it. Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So thank you. Ms. McGovern will
Conditions?
Conditions, please.
Sure, there's just two, in
Okay.
addition to the normal. Will install a sidewalk from the hotel to West Orange Plaza Shopping Plaza as per the recommendation of the Pedestrian Safety Committee report, and will provide revised drawings and will address each of the points of the letter made by Mr. Scott in the Matrix report dated March 25, 2025.
And the
Just
township
across
par-
their frontage, right? Just
I'm sorry.
you say, just across their frontage
Just
from,
across their frontage, which
Yeah,
will
yeah, you said
connect
all in
with the
the
West
shopping.
Orange Plaza sidewalk.
yeah,
And the all plantings and tree replacement will be directed to the township forester for their approval. And there will be a clearly delineated usage of that portion of the property that's dedicated to groups of the township. So the township administration will know who gets them, how. There's got to be a proper manual describing everything.
Okay, so what would that be? A manual must file a manual with who
Mr.
in the
McPherson,
township? The clerk?
You can come up with the verbiage that we wanted.
Okay,
So somebody has to contact somebody at the manor. Who's that person or who's that group? How do they go about getting to use that space? What groups should be clearly delineated?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
okay.
Mayor McCartney.
Thank you. Should there be a condition on maintaining the sanitary sewer also?
Yes, absolutely.
I believe that was a comment
Yes, it was a
in the
matrix.
Matrix letter.
Which is part of the matrix comments.
Yeah.
I don't usually separate them all out. I just usually,
And
set
we're going to
forth the
also,
matrix report.
Mr. Petrie also asked for an increase in the number of people that are
Right.
allowed in the building. Is that correct, Mr. Petrie?
That is correct, from 1,404 to 1,515.
Right. And then there was one C2 variance that you provided testimony about.
Yes, and that is the impervious coverage, which is a limitation of 60. In the existing condition, it's 61.75, and we are proposing 60.53.
Okay. So I will say, I'll recommend that we consider that a de minimis exception. And I would recommend that we do provide a C2 variance based on the decrease of 5,000 square feet of impervious coverage the applicant is going to provide. So to that end, does anybody else have any conditions or questions? Mr. Klein?
So go back again to the occupancy of 1515 is based on 471 parking spaces. And that includes the entire site, whether that carriage house becomes a bar, restaurant, whatever, right?
You're absolutely correct, Mr. Klein.
All right. Okay.
That's how the condition has run historically.
Does any other member of the board have any questions or comments? Okay. And at this moment, I would like to thank all members of the board for staying with us. And I recommend that we approve PB 24-4. No, I don't. Sorry. It's late. I recommend we approve PB 25-02 Orange Prospect LLC, block 151, lot 1, lot 17.01, zone B2, 111 Prospect Avenue, fondly known as the Manor, with a C2 variance and the increase in the number of people that could be on the site and the conditions hereto aforementioned. Do I have a second?
Second, Mr. Chairman.
Vice Chairman Guarino seconds. On the motion, Yamilet.
Mr. Alpert,
Yes.
Mr. Klein,
Yes.
Mr. Wilks,
Yes.
Mr. Cardoza,
Yes.
Councilwoman Scarpa,
Yes.
Mayor McCartney.
Yes. And one question, is the new name going to be the state? That's what I saw on the plan.
Yes, that's my understanding, Mayor. But just to wrap it up, the historic manor will be incorporated inside the building, with, certain pictures and such. So
Right.
obviously it's being retained. So there'll be an element of the historic manor.
Historic banner.
I think
Yep,
we're
thank you.
precluded from using the name.
Really?
Unfortunately.
Oh,
Thank you.
Mr. Guarino,
Yes.
Chairman Bago.
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Petrie, Mr. McPherson. Thank you all
Thank you.
members of the planning board. Don't go away for a moment. The next regular planning board meeting will be held Wednesday, June 4th at 6:30 p.m. in person in Town Hall. Zoom will be there only for viewing. And do I have a motion to adjourn?
motion.
Mr. Klein, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
You're above the nose. Thank you very much. Have a wonderful evening.
Thank you.
Aye.
Good night, everyone.
Good
Good night,
evening.
all. Good night.